Is it working? Okay, there it goes. Whoops. Forgot to turn on my mic or plug it in. Oops. All right. Okay, everything is looking good. Chat pop out seems to be working. All right. Okay. Oh, hey. Good to see you, dude. Welcome. You are early. Just turned it on. So, obviously, we're talking about the revised cards. Um, and today we are on green. Um, we might as well just get started. Aspect of Wolf is an interesting card, but it's not a super powerful card. So, Aspect of Wolf is an enchant creature, costs 1 and a green, and target creature's power and toughness are increased by half the number of forests you have in play, rounding down for power and up for toughness. Um, this is pretty interesting as far as cards go, right? Um, it's not like particularly powerful, but with some of the other cards mixed in this set, it's definitely not bad. If you are going to try to do mono green, or at least most of your lands are forests, this is not a bad way to do it. It's not like competitive or anything, but it's certainly great in like kitchen table and pretty good in draft too if you can get mostly a green deck. Um, I like this card. This is a card I attempt to build around with once in a while. It it can win games. It won't against the most powerful stuff, but other than the most powerful stuff, this is pretty good. It's a card I really like. Uh, Illustrated by Jeff A. Menges, and the art's pretty cool. It's a really well done like wolf and mountain scene if that's what you're into. I like it anyway. Um, it's definitely decent and feels very green with the lands batter. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. It's decent. Um, and it also goes pretty well with some of the other stuff that Green's doing that we'll talk about, right? Like Fast Bond is obviously a big one. This is pretty good with Fast Bond. You'll probably need some way to like up your card advantage so you don't just blow out and do nothing. But this is definitely pretty decent. I think Living Lands is in this, unless that didn't get reprinted. If Living Lands is in revised, then this is pretty solid. There isn't too much else to say about it though. It's definitely not the most impressive card of all time. Birds of Paradise might be though. Um, Birds of Paradise is a pretty interesting card for a few different reasons. One, it's objectively a fantastic card. It's a high power level. I don't think it really sees play in any of the superpower formats. It might see play in Legacy, um, just because of how fast and powerful other things around it are. But this is a really good card. Hey, Tristan, you made it today. Welcome, 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 welcome. What a banger! Still so good today. Yeah, it is. It's especially amazing in like Commander, right? Um, but it's just like the original best mana dork. Um, and like it's good for a few reasons too, right? Obviously, the whole it's a mana dork thing is good. The whole it can color fix you is pretty good, especially in this era of cards where you do have the dual lands, but you don't have fetch lands, and there isn't too much as far as like mana fixing goes. It's actually pretty. I mean, I guess you do have City of Brass now, but it's still kind of inconsistent making a 5 color deck. Birds of Paradise definitely helps with that. And the flying is not nothing, right? Like you generally don't want to be blocking with your Birds of Paradise, but you absolutely can, and you can block pretty much anything unless it's, from Portal and has horsemanship or some type of unblockability. Tapping for any color and not just green is such a huge upside compared to Llanowar Elves. Yeah, it is. Llanowar Elves does have the advantage of having a power. Like, you generally don't want to swing in with your Llanowar Elves, at least not right away, but the fact that it can is pretty nice. Um, but Birds of Paradise has a beat on pretty much everything else. It The color fixing is super fucking huge. As I said, the flying is not nothing. The 0/1 does kind of suck, but this card is good enough without having a power. Um, yeah, it's just a fantastic card. Can chump a pumped up Shivan and give you another turn. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. It it's versatile, right? Not every use of it is something that you want to be doing, but a game of Magic isn't necessarily just things that you want to be doing. Sometimes it's things you have to do so that you can do something you want, like win the game next turn. Um, so it's valuable for that. The art on this is really interesting too, for a few different reasons. One, it's just nice art. I like it. It was done by Mark Poole. I'm a big Poole fan, but this piece is really cool and very pretty. Um, oh, hey, dude, you made it. Hell yeah. You did miss Aspect of Wolf, the enchantment that is pumps your power by how many forests you have rounded down and pumps your toughness by how many forests you have rounded up. And it's decent, right? Like it's not like a power card, but it's something that you can build around, and that's pretty interesting. But yeah, Birds of Paradise, second card we're talking about, super fantastic. Um, it's good because it's got flying. It's well, that's not the main reason it's good, but it's good because it's cheap. It's good because it's dork. It ramps you. It's good because it color fixes you, and the flying is not nothing. Uh, it's a great card. Usually an auto include when I do multicolor green. Um, yeah, the art. We're talking about the art. The art is really good. As you probably know, it sounds okay. Yeah. As you guys probably know, there is some contention around this art because it was originally put up as the art for a land, and then the card Birds of Paradise actually got made because they had this card, or they had this art, and they did this was alpha, right? They had zero money. They were working out of a garage. So they said, "Well, we commissioned this art. We need to use it." So they made Birds of Paradise. They made I think the cards that they made at the end were Sedge Troll, Birds of Paradise, Word of Command, Island Sanctuary, and Stasis and Stasis. Those cards were like the last five made, and there's some reason that they were included. Anyway, Birds of Paradise, the reason was is that they had this art that they needed to use for something. What card this art was for is actually kind of contentious. Uh, Mark Rosewater said it was for Tropical Island specifically. When I was looking into this, apparently, according to some random Reddit user, and I never was able to find a source that confirmed this, and I haven't bothered reaching out because it's not that big of a deal. But according to this Reddit user that had talked to Poole, uh, Birds of Paradise, the art for it was specifically for just a regular island. He submitted this as an island art. Um, and then there are some people that say that it's for Volcanic Island because an alpha Volcanic Island wasn't printed due to art issues, apparently. Um, I do lean towards it probably being the island. You can say that Birds is the first card that made green the bride of other colors. Yeah, 100%. Um, it's such an interesting and unique design. It's especially interesting because Birds didn't. Because if you look at the alpha cards, most of the green cards are concerned with you being as heavy green as possible, right? With like Aspect of Wolf and Living Lands only caring about forests. Yeah. Um, So it is interesting, but yeah, Birds of Paradise is definitely the first card that introduced that design pathway. Um, anyway, I do tend to think that this card is probably was for just for an island. The volcanic island makes sense to me because it does have a volcano on the island. Um, Tropical Island doesn't make sense to me too much because they had art for it, and Poole himself said the art was for Island specifically, which does make sense because the first two Island arts, one of them is just a reversed and resumed version of the other one. So clearly they didn't have the art they needed for that. Um, yeah, yeah, I guess that's my piece on it. I think it was the art for the original Island, but this is like I don't know that this is something that could ever be proven. It is pretty contentious and is kind of interesting. Um, but beyond that, Birds of Paradise is a great card, fantastic card. One of the better ones in the set, arguably. Um, yeah, both volcanic and regular island makes sense. Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Like Mark Rosewater apparently confirmed somewhere that it was Tropical Island. It's in, I believe, one of his Drive to Works. I don't know. I didn't look into it just for this segment, but um, my pushback on that is that Mark Rosewater wasn't even in the building at the time that these decisions were made, so he is at best a secondary source, and it's possible he just misremembered. Um, but yeah, so there are like three different potentials, and I don't know that it's possible to ever actually know for sure. It also kind of doesn't matter, but it is interesting to think about. The next card is really good too. Channel. Uh, Channel's an interesting card. For 2 green mana, you have a sorcery, and until end of turn, you may add colorless mana to your mana pool at the cost of 1 life per point of mana. These additions are played with the speed of an interrupt. Effects that prevent or redirect damage may not be used to counter this loss of life. Boom. So this is obviously very famously part of the Channel Fireball combo, where you use most likely a Black Lotus and either a Mox Ruby or a Mountain, and you make 3 green mana with the Black Lotus. You cast the Channel, and then you use the red source to cast the Fireball, and then you use the 1 green mana that you have left as the first of the X cost, and then you take 19 life off for the last 20 to cast a Fireball for 20 on turn 1. Uh, Pretty good. Yeah, yeah, pretty banned card. Um, you think it might get banned at some point. Tristan, are you referring to you making a joke about channel or are you talking about birds? Funny how it was always insane and became even more insane with time. Yeah, this is kind of a card effect that's just never gonna like settle down, right? Um, it does require some other cards to like do anything with, but it's a really insane card. Um, yeah, fuck. It's insane. Like you guys said, banned and restricted everywhere. Shows you how strong it is. Yeah, it's really strong. Yes, making a joke. Gotcha, gotcha. There's a bit of delay, so sometimes usually I can figure out what the comment is about, but sometimes I struggle. Thank you. Um, I also really like the art. Richard Thomas did this, and yeah, I don't know what it is about this art, but it's really compelling in such a cool way. Um, what else is there to say about channel? Um, if you're not doing broken stuff with it, it's still pretty good, right? Because a lot of creatures have generic costs, so you can use this to cheat out a crawl worm if you want, and that's still pretty good. Um, it's a pretty fun card, but obviously too powerful to like be good, or too powerful, not too powerful to be good, too powerful to see to be allowed to have free reign of any format. Um, but yeah, that's channel. I guess there's not too much else to say about it. It's a real banger of a card. Uh, the next one is gonna look pretty bad by comparison. But this is pretty annoying in the right circumstances. Cockatrice is a 2/4 that costs 3 and 2 green mana, and it has flying, and any non-wall creature blocking Cockatrice is destroyed, as is any creature blocked by Cockatrice. Creatures destroyed in this way deal their damage before dying. I think Hatred is a fair version of Channel. Yeah, that's a pretty decent point. I could get behind that. Cockatrice. So this is Death Touch. This is Death Touch, but it doesn't kill walls, which kind of makes sense from a flavor standpoint if you consider specifically Alpha, because all of the walls were like inanimate objects, and this is like, yeah. Because if your opponent attacks with this, why would you ever block? Well, you would block if you had something powerful, like any situation where you would block, they just wouldn't attack with it, and then like you're still in the same position, right? Yeah, this is especially in like a playing card, like playing this in this environment, this is really good. This is as you've said, really fucking annoying in Chandelar. It's funny how many times my heart has sank when this stupid fucking thing got cast. It's an annoyingly good blocker. The flying is really nice. 4 is just big enough that it's like super fucking annoying. Um, there are stronger things at the mana level of this, but like if this comes down early in any way, or for some reason you don't have something big, this is super fucking annoying. And if you do have something big for around this mana, it probably doesn't have flying. Um, yeah, Cockatrice is really, really fucking annoying. It's a solid card in the environment, which is really funny because it looks stupid, right? Like you read this card and you're like, wow, this kind of sucks. And by today's standards, it does. But back in the day, this thing was rude. It's really frustrating in Chandelar. The art's really fucking cool though. It was illustrated by Dan Frazier, and I like the art. Good old fucking chicken snake. Um, I think that's really all that I have to say on it though. It if you're new to the environment, this is actually something to be concerned about to some degree. You should have some kind of solution to something like this, especially if you're playing Chandelar. So this thing is going to show up. It doesn't look very green on today's color pie. I mean, the card's green. No, yeah. Um, I guess I'm not super familiar with, like, I haven't really paid attention to the last 2 years of sets. But if you go back a few years beyond that, I would say, I don't know, maybe I'm too old coded, but there's stuff like Death Touch and Infect, which this isn't Infect, but it's kind of Infect adjacent, right? Like, it's Poison Death Touch adjacent. I would say this is Death Touch is still green. No, yeah, yeah. I think I would push back on that, but again, I don't have enough experience to actually have a leg to stand on in that particular discussion. Um, I guess you could point to the flying and say that's not a very green thing, which is definitely true, but green does get flying more so than, yeah, worst case scenario, you take 2 when it swings. Yeah, it's not a big deal to let this through. It's such a problem for your game plan when it comes up because of how versatile this is. It can remove some, like, you can't really swing into it, but if it's just swinging at you for 2, it's not the hugest deal. Um, but it's pretty fucking annoying to deal with. definitely throws a wrench in things. But yeah, flying not the greenest thing, and it's gotten less of a green thing as time goes on, but it still shows up, I think. So, who's to say? Um, yeah, that's really all I have on cockatrice. Another banger for the time is crawlworm, which is like strictly worse colossal dreadmaw. Uh, crawlworm is a common. It is a 6/4. It's 4 and 2 green mana, and it's a vanilla. So there's not like anything to say about it. It just has big numbers for the time. Crawlworm is pretty good. Um, it definitely in this kind of environment, it's pretty solid. It trades with the cockatrice, which I guess is pretty funny. Assuming it's doing the assuming the cockatrice is doing the blocking because this thing can't block it. Uh I guess the art was done by Daniel Gellin, and I really like the art on Crawlworm. I like the yeah, banger card, banger art. Crawlworm is a state of mind. Keyword big. All true. All true stuff. I had this shirt. My grandma threw it in the trash. Aw, that sucks, dude. I didn't know there was a Crawlworm shirt. That's pretty fucking badass. Yeah, Crawlworm is just great. Super big. Just no thinking. Just this has to be a rare Timmy 1994. Yeah, but the funny thing is like it was better than a lot of the rares, right? Like not all of them, obviously, but Crawlworm is in 94, like your deck's better if it's got Crawlworms in it, most likely, unless you had power. And even then power's pretty good with Crawlworm, right? What's better than Crawlworm? A Crawlworm on turn 2? Um Yeah, I like Crawlworm. Banger card, banger art, 10/10, no notes. Uh, it's Crumble. Crumble is interesting. So Crumble is 1 green mana and it buries target artifact. Artifact's controller gains life points equal to the target artifact's casting cost. So this is effectively Swords to Plowshare for artifacts, except that it goes to the graveyard. It doesn't get exiled, but it gains life, same as swords. It just buries it, and also can't be regenerated, which things can't be regenerated off of swords either, because it goes to exile. So, so there are differences, but it's very, very. You could look at this as the green artifact Swords to Plowshare. Um, so it's pretty good. If a lot of artifacts are being played or very specific artifact win conditions are being played, then Crumble's pretty good. It's more of a sideboard card though, because not every deck is gonna have artifacts. Um, and in those situations, yeah, nature's claims dad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Crumble is good. Meta dependent, but it's good. It's a good card. Illustrated by Jesper Mirfers, and this originally came in Antiquities, which makes sense because every card in Antiquities is either an artifact, taps for colorless, or cares about artifacts. And by cares about artifacts, it probably says artifact in the cards box somewhere. Um, so Crumble is a very natural card to come out of that environment. I think artifacts were pretty popular by then. Yeah, they probably were. Um, I think like at the time, Crumble was probably it was at the very least a good card to sideboard in if you had the space and were in green. Um, but yeah, I guess it's worth noting you could also target your own high mana costed artifact in response to it getting destroyed to gain some life off of it, but that would probably is not worth a card. So that's something you could do, but I don't know that I would recommend doing that. That's really all there is to say about Crumble, though. It's pretty good. I would say at the very least sideboard, but again, meta dependent. Um, it's a pretty solid draft card too, depending on what's in the draft, of course. Desert Twister, originally an Arabian Nights card. Desert Twister costs 4 and 2 green mana, and it can destroy any card in play at sorcery speed. Oh, this card is pretty interesting. So this card was in the Arabian Nights set, and the green color kind of struggled in that set, or rather, Richard struggled to make cards that were green in that set because it was like it takes place in a desert. So, like, there aren't trees, there are not a whole lot of woodland creatures. It so the green cards specifically in that set are kind of interesting. Um, in just how he attempted to make them. Desert Twister is a good example of this because one of the things they did was like natural disasters, right? Like Twister, Cyclone. They used a lot of Twister ones. Um, but I think that's kind of interesting. The effect is really, really good. 6 mana for the effect is debatable. Whether this is good or not depends entirely on how shit the other cards around it are, or how slow the environment is. This is definitely a decent card. Um, and does give green access to some options it wouldn't otherwise have. Is this the first card that can hit any permanent? No. Technically, I think Chaos Orb would be the first card that could hit any permanent from Alpha. But this is the first one that, like, you could play after Dexterity rules. Um, it's the first colored card that can hit any permanent. I wish green could have these effects at high mana cost nowadays. Yeah, I agree. I don't personally have a problem with stuff like this. I think giving each color things that it struggles to do at an exorbitantly high mana cost is fine. Um I don't mind stuff like that. And Desert Twister on its own is a pretty interesting card. Oh yeah, Chaos Orb. Yeah, yeah. Um, but if you exclude Chaos Orb, I do believe you are correct. So this is the second and the first like non-dexterity card. Art was done by Susan Van Camp, and it's fantastic. I like it. It's probably one of her most serious arts. And I think she did a good job with it. The twister in the background itself is very, very cool. Interesting technique she used there. But yeah, I mean it's a card that destroys every permanent. I don't think there's not any like weird combos or interesting parts of history to talk about other than the fact that this is like a not super green effect and you generally wouldn't see deserts referenced by green cards. At least not today. It's a cool card though. I like it. Elvish Archers. Elvish Archers is kind of interesting. It's a 2/1 creature for 1 and a green, and it has first strike. So that's pretty on rate. It's the slightly worse but slightly easier to cast White and Black Knight, right? Doesn't have protection from anything, but you can play it in a more colored deck. It's decent. It's not great. It doesn't have any evasion or anything. Um, but it's definitely decent. Very clean design. Yeah, it is a very clean design. It's very cool. It's flavorful. Anson for the win. Yeah, Anson Maddox did this piece, and it's fantastic. Yeah, Carlos, you're correct. That's a good thing to point up. This was misprinted in Alpha, like a couple other things. Birds of Paradise was also misprinted in Alpha. I probably should have mentioned. Um, it was a 1/2 on Alpha. The Alpha printing of it is a 1/2, which is a significantly worse card. But that was a mistake. They've claimed that in a few different places. That one toughness matters more than you'd think with Prodigal Sorcerer and Giant Tortoise. Yeah, the one toughness does definitely matter, and not even just stuff to that. Like there's also like Hurricane, and Sandstorm. I think is the card. Yeah, Sandstorm. There's a bunch of stuff that makes one toughness way worse than two toughness, but two power, being a 2/1 is still like way better than being a 1/2. Um, unless you are a like as an attacking creature, right? With first strike, you are kind of an attacking creature, so like that first strike also really matters to make the one toughness not be as huge of a deal. Um, you still trade with like a knight, but you don't trade with a Savannah Lion, a 2/1 for one, right? So if that attacks into you or you attack into that, you're gonna kill it. Um, you kill a grizzly bear, like you don't trade with that, right? So first strike along with the one toughness makes it quite a bit safer. Hey, welcome. Doing good, doing good. Um, I've been talking a lot these last few days, and my throat's been a little scratchy from that, but otherwise I've been doing all right. Apparently, I underestimated how dry talking so much makes your mouth, but live and learn, right? Uh, Elvish Archers. I think that's really all I have to say about it. Probably only two creatures with first strike that are only green. Yeah, I don't think it's too common. Um, which is fair. It's not. I don't think first strike can never be a green ability. I don't think it like anti-meshes, but you don't see it too often. Um, but I do think first strike is one of those abilities that any color could reasonably have and it make narrative sense. Um, the only time an Archer flavor card doesn't have reach. Not exactly the only time, but it is pretty uncommon. Because they also back in the day before the reach thing became super popular for archers, they would do pinging abilities, right? So there's after the like well, even before this set in Legends, there's like Devante Archer or whatever, and that can ping a an attacking or defending creature. Um, and so yeah, using first strike to emulate an archer is an interesting take at the concept, but not one that they stuck with for very long. And it's not like they didn't have the ability back in the days of Alpha either. Giant Spider, for example. First strike feels reach like though. Yeah, it does. Doesn't do anything against flying, which is kind of the point. But yeah, it does kind of feel. Yeah, they did have the ability. Giant Spider was an alpha. Although you can also make the argument that it wasn't first strike or it wasn't keyworded, so it's not like they thought they were. It was like haste and vigilance, right? Where they didn't necessarily think they were going to do that often enough to bother creating a keyword about it. Um, and the flavor for reach on spiders is a little bit different than the flavor of reach on an archer, right? Because all reach, the keyword is trying to do is say, okay, so this can hit flying things, right? And you can do that through various methods, right? Like either using artillery or arrows. But with the spiders, it's like a web, right? So it's not crazy that that connection wasn't reached initially because with the reach when they created it on Giant Spider, or at least the concept of it, it was like it's a spider, right? It makes webs, and archers don't make webs, so it makes sense that they didn't draw that connection initially. It's funny that First Strike is more flavorful on arches. What accent do we read the flavor text in? Young Angus. One that I can't do. That's funny. Um, it's funny that First Strike is more flavorful on archers. Yeah, it's pretty flavorful on archers, and like the reason the knights get it, I think, is for lances, because it's a ironically First Strike is meant to show off reach weapons. Not in the way that reach would, right? Because like it's not like you can stab a bird with a pike unless you're really lucky. But yeah, First Strike is just meant to like my weapon is reaching you first. Um, so it makes sense they gave it to archers. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting card. It's not particularly strong, obviously, but it's not terrible. I don't know that there's too much else to say about it. I do really like the art, though. I mentioned Anson Maddox did the art earlier, but I do enjoy it. The next card is an interesting one, though. You guys ever hear of Fast Bond? Good old Fast Bond. Single green mana, and you may put as many lands into play as you want each turn. Fast Bond does 1 damage to you for every land beyond the first that you play in a single turn. That seems pretty decent. What a card, man. The funny thing is Fast Bond out of all the like power cards is probably the one that I have the most difficulty building around. At least in the card pool environment. Um, I'm not gonna say Fast Bond is not good, because like what a card, right? But I do think Fast Bond is incredibly susceptible to like blowing yourself out. Fast Bond allows you to play a bunch of lands, right? Which is good, right? And there are like synergies around this. You can just like cast your giant fucking shit way earlier. You can, if you're playing it mostly fair, um you can do like living lands things where you throw out a bunch of forests and fucking turn them into creatures and swing in and kill. At 1 damage per land drop. However, will the ramp players cope? They're gonna have it pretty tough. They're gonna have it pretty tough. The problem with this card is you need to like pair this with insane card advantage. Otherwise, you get your resources faster, but you hit a point where then you're like, now what? Um, yeah, Fast Bond is broken. I'm not trying to say Fast Bond is not a broken card. It's only legal in an environment where you're playing it against the Power 9. Yeah, yeah, as it should be. Like this is not an okay card, but I do think that of the power cards, right? Because like so it's with the power cards, right? So you have to compare this to Time Twister. You have to compare this to Time Walk and Black Lotus and all those stuff. Uh, In a limited, we don't, because most of those power cards got removed, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But all I'm saying is that unless you have some sort of gas, what happens is you play this, you play all your lands on turn 1, you take some damage, and then unless you have the card advantage to like do something with that, it if this card is more susceptible to fizzling out than like any other like combo at this point in the game, is I guess all I'm trying to get. Play all lands, play big, play draw spells, play more lands, play big dudes. Yeah, yeah, you can do that. Um, but you're doing that in an environment with like Time Twister, right? Um, it's a really good card, and you can do stuff with it. This with card advantage is insane for sure. Um, but it's slightly less insane than the other things in the environment that you can be doing with card advantage, right? Does that make sense? That's all I'm trying to get at. Like, I'm not saying that this should be like in standard or in even in Commander, although I do think it would be funny in Commander. It's probably weaker in the average deck back in the days, but imagine it being legal today. It would be beyond busted with my. Yeah, that's the point. It was burgeoning is the fixed version. Yeah, there's a couple of fixed versions of it too, right? What's the other one? Explore? Not might be not what I'm thinking of. Um, but yeah, burgeoning is the fixed version of it. Yes, this would be busted with modern cards for sure, 100%. Um, but with a card pool restricted to what it was when Fastbond was, I think it's less of a big deal than people think. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not even saying it's not fantastic. Just saying it's harder to build around than the average power card. But it is really strong. But it's weak. But it is also in the same set as like Channel, right? Um, it's such a good card though. It's a really cool idea for a card. And the art is fantastic. Mark Pool, classic Mark Pool piece. Just a classic D&D wizard. Ba, 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 ba. Well, it falls short on vintage. Imagine opening with 6 lands and fast bind. Yeah, I mean I don't have to imagine that. I've played games where I've opened 6 lands and fast bond. You take 5 damage and then you draw lands and lose. Um, they like that's not a hand you should be keeping. Um, well, it falls short on vintage, so I agree with you. Yeah, that's all I'm trying to get at is I love this card and I have played with this card and I was really excited to play with this card, but I ran into a lot more speed bumps with this card than I did with like say Time Twister, right? Or or even like ATOG, right? Like I've built smoother decks with ATOG than I have with Fast Bond. Part of that is because like Fast Bond actively synergizes with land cards. Um, and so like whereas ATOG synergizes with like Moxen, right? So then you top deck your card advantage like a champ and take over the game. Yeah, yeah, some fucking anime protagonist shit, right? Card of sanctity, that shit. Um, but yeah, like it's still a busted card. I'm not trying to like. I just don't want to glaze on it too hard because it's been a frustrating card to build around. Now, if contract from below was allowed, yeah, contract's pretty good. Contract's pretty good. If you combine the two, it's almost perfect, right? Fast bond contract, boom. That's a pretty good deck. Um, but yeah, I do think fast bond does sit in this kind of awkward position where it's strong enough to get pushed out of like fair magic. It's not strong enough to like stand with the rest of the giants. Um, Although it was restricted in vintage for the longest time. I do think its unrestriction is relatively recent. Like it's a few years old now, I think, but they did it not too long ago and it like made zero changes to the format as far as I remembered. Um it's such a cool card though. I do think it would be okay in Commander, if I'm being honest, but who's to say? All right, Fog. Fog is a classic. Fog costs a single mana, and creatures attack and block as normal, but none deal any damage or otherwise affect any creature as a result of an attack or block. All attacking creatures are still tapped. Play anytime before attack damage is dealt. Illustrated by Jesper Meerfers. So basically, you swing in and they block stuff, or they swing in and you either block or you don't. It doesn't matter. And you cast Fog. And then everything stops. Fog is an excellent card. Another timeless design can be very annoying to play against, though. Yeah, Fog is interesting because Fog, probably more than any other like type of card. To be fair, playing lands is that fast run out. Then play Forged Maze of Ith. Yeah, yeah, the lands were definitely good, right? But it also like this synergizes with the best land, Library of Alexandria at the time. Because like unless you're managing to pump your hand back up, um yeah. And it's still like the card advantage issue is the issue, right? It's hard, and a lot of the card, some of the card advantage like synergizes well with fast bond, but some of it doesn't. Um, but it's not like it was unplayable for sure. Maze of Ith was a very contentious card. A lot of people did not like it. Um, so that would probably just get people to scoop, quite honestly. And if that's your strategy, hell yeah. Oh, but anyways, back to Fog. Fog is interesting. Any Turbo Fog enjoyers? I actually don't know what Turbo Fog is. Um, that sounds pretty funny though. Um, Fog is a great design. It more than like any other type of effect can be good or not. It really depends on the meta. But this is a card that like this is a card type that shows up in competitive play fairly decent amount of the time. It's a timeless design. It's fantastic. It's yeah, it's such a cool card, right? Like it's obviously iconic, right? There's a whole subset of cards designed around Fog, the Fog effects, right? All of them named after the OG Fog. It's a good card. The art is really good. I do like the art on this. Um, I don't know if there's too much else to say about it. Turbo Fog is a deck that is able to fog every combat and win the game by frustrating your opponent forever. So that sounds like that sounds like my type of deck. That's really funny. That's some fun bro shit. Yeah, I don't. The problem is I don't play too many sanctioned formats. I go through the history of some of them and I dip my toes in every once in a while. Pauper is a really interesting format, but one I like never play. Um, it sounds really funny though. But yeah, fogs can be really good. Fogs can be competitive. Fogs can be the most frustrating thing in the world. There's apparently a rise in fog effects in certain commander play groups. Some like content creators are talking about fog effects more and more. Um, which to be fair, they couldn't be good in that environment. But yeah, fog is a fantastic card. Um, it's kind so fog did not get printed in foundations, which is kind of interesting. I would have assumed that it was there. But that's really all there. Fog and Commander is very powerful. Yeah, for sure, right? Because it's a lot of it is building up giant board states and swinging in. Like, if the win condition is hit with lots of creatures, Fog is good. It is really funny when every one of your turning matches lasts 2 hours because of Fog. Yeah, that sounds really funny. I think because of the amount of space in between turns. Yeah, yeah, that definitely plays a part in it too. Um, yeah. Fog can be a frustrating card, but any card that interacts with your opponent in any way can be a frustrating card. So I don't have much to say on that. Fog's great though. This next card is pretty interesting. It's not what I would call great though. Force of Nature is an 8/8. Oh my god, he's a big boy. That costs 2 and 4 green mana. It has trample, but you must pay 4 green mana during your upkeep, or Force of Nature does 8 damage to you. You may still attack with Force of Nature even if you fail to pay the upkeep. Um, so this is Force of Nature is so cool. Yeah, Force of Nature is so cool. It's a shame it's not particularly good. An 8/8 swinging at you with trample is not the worst thing in the world, for sure. But getting Armageddon and having this deal 8 damage to you every turn is kind of the worst thing in the world. But also so punished. Yeah, yeah. This and Circle of Protection. Yeah, okay, sure, you could do that. Honestly, 6 mana for an 8/8 trampler, even by today's standards, isn't that bad. No, it isn't. Like, I say this card is bad. I don't mean this card is like unplayable. But it's really punishing and pretty easy to dismantle. Prime Spirit Link target. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good with a Spirit Link for sure. I think the main problem with stuff like this is just that at the time, the difference between the investment in this and, say, a Swords to Plowshare or a Terror is pretty fucking high. Um, being oh, Spirit Link is a great idea. Spirit Link is a great idea. Spirit Link on this is really funny. You could also Spirit Link your opponent's Force of Nature, which is also really funny. Um, but yeah, Force of Nature is interesting. It's such a cool card though. Yeah, it's Crawl Worm. Every bloke back in the day thought he was a genius because they realized how this card interacts with Circle of Protection Green. Yeah, that is funny. It's definitely not good, but it is funny. Um, it's iconic. It is iconic, for sure. The art is also awesome, right? Um, Douglas Schuler did a good job on this. It's just a giant green jawed thing. It's real funny. Um, it's not the worst thing you can be doing. There's just it's a big investment that's relatively easy to remove. And there are multiple avenues for your opponent to mess with you. Um, one of the only 4 creatures in Alpha with trample. Uh, yeah, because it's most of it was green too, because the War Ele or not War Ele War Mammoth, Force of Nature. What else had trample in Alpha? I should know this off the top of my head. I'm just gonna take your word on that. Um, Force of Nature is pretty fun. It's definitely not a good card, but the rate isn't bad. Armageddon comes to mind. Yeah, I mentioned that early on. You get Armageddon, then that's not to say you still. The thing is that you can also just ignore that, right? Like if it gets Armageddon, it does 8 damage to you. If you have more health than they do by a factor of 8, then it's not an issue. Unless they manage to like do something. Lord of the Pit, two-headed giant. Ah, yeah. Two-headed giant of Fairlies had trample? Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Lord of the Pit, yeah. Lord of the Pit is pretty much the same thing as this in some ways, which is interesting. Yeah, Force of Nature is, like I said, I wouldn't call this a good card, but it is a fun card. My bad, I was out of the room. No, I wasn't. You can say things in chat even after I said them. That's allowed. Uh, um, but yeah, Armageddon does come to mind. You do make a good point. This getting Armageddon is really funny. Um, Honestly, even if they blow up your lands, if you still have COP green on board, you can kind of run over the opponent with this card. Yeah, you definitely can, assuming you manage to get another land drop down. Um, but you can also just race them too, because you can still attack with it, right? So like if it's dealing 8 to you and if you swung at them first, like say no damage, it's 20/20, you got this down and it survived a turn and you hit them for 8, dropping them to 12. Even if they do Armageddon then, you'd still win as long as nothing changed on the board. Like you said, doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, but so again, I'm not saying the card's unplayable, but it is definitely pretty weak. Um, but again, that depends on the environment. All right, I will be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom. Okay. All right. Love the flavor of this. You summon this super powerful creature, but you need to channel mana into it to control it. Yeah, the flavor of stuff like this is really cool, right? Like you're a wizard having a magical battle and you bring through this really powerful creature, but like why would it just do your bidding? Um which side are you on? Force of Nature or Crawlworm? I mean, if you're talking about what's objectively a better card, it's Crawlworm, right? The main considerations are that everything is just going to get Swords to Plowshared or Terrored anyway. So spending 6 mana on a beater is better than spending 8 mana on a beater. And even if that doesn't happen, the Crawlworm comes down earlier. Obviously, this beats a Crawlworm, but you just have to be faster, right? Crawlworm comes down earlier, doesn't punish you. I think Crawlworm is objectively a better card, personally. But there are arguments that, I mean, there are situations where this would be better. But I personally prefer Crawlworm. And Crawlworm is just way easier to cast. Another downside, like we haven't talked about so much, is that you practically have to be in mono green to play this at any point early, right? And to be honest, the green Crawlworm gets blown out by 2 Elvish Archers blocking. Yeah, that's true. Um, I don't know, play some removal. Um, yeah, that's the cool thing about the game, though, right? Like any of these cards can oust any other card in the exact correct situation. It's why we're still talking about this fucking game 30 years later. Um, but I do think in more situations, Crawlworm is just better, if only just for the fact that you can like also play red with it pretty easily. Whereas Force of Nature, you kind of to have it out at any reasonable time, you need to be at least mostly green, which isn't necessarily a problem. Force looks like a rejected Killer Instinct character. Oh yeah, kind of. Also, welcome, Darth. Glad to see you made it. Um, yeah, I think that was all I had to say on it. Um, Force of Nature is fine, right? Like, I'm not calling you stupid if you like playing this card. I think it's just more risky. It shows the difference in how people thought back to. Well, yeah, but I mean, people didn't have the experience they do now, right? Like all of us are standing on the shoulders of giants when it comes to cards. Um, but I do like that the big giant meatballs with a downside are like, look at this. This is so good. But a card like this teaches you a lot of lessons intrinsically, right? It teaches you that okay, like maybe I shouldn't have this in a 5 color deck because I never get to cast it, or even a 3 color deck. Although a three color deck could work if like the other two colors were splash because of the dual lands, right? So if you had like three, let's say you went green, black, red. If you had like three taigas, yeah, three bayous, and then forests. That wouldn't be too bad. Um, but the dual lands is the only way to really make that work. Um, but yeah, this a card like this teaches you to think of a lot of different things. But on first glance, yeah, obviously it's better than Crawlworm, right? It's an 8/8, and the trample is not nothing. It teaches you a similar lesson to Gigantosaurus today for new players. Yeah, Gigantosaurus is an excellent example, right? Yeah, big stats does not mean the card is strong. Yeah, it teaches you to factor in costs, right? Like, is the thing that's weaker and cheaper and faster better than the thing that's stronger, more dangerous, and right? It really depends, but making you think about those things is really good card design, right? Like, personally, I think this card is great design. I don't think it's strong, but I think it's a fantastically designed card. Other that Gigantosaur doesn't get consistently jumped, unlike Force of Nature. Well, this has trample, so jumping isn't like it solves the problem a little bit, but yeah, Force of Nature is pretty interesting. But we're gonna move on because it is like way less interesting than the next card we're gonna talk about. Uh, Fungasaur might be my favorite creature in Alpha. There's a couple others that I really like too. And that says a lot because most of the creatures I really like are kind of bad. Um, Fungasaur actually, Fungasaur got bodied by Revised. So Fungasaur is their first like example of um, functional errata. So I'm gonna read the card now. Fungasaur, 0 3 or 3 and a 1, 3 and a green. That was way harder than it should have been. It's a 2/2. At the end of any turn during which Fungasaur was damaged but not destroyed, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Get your pestilence ready, folks. Ah, you're giving away the bat. You're giving it away. You're giving it away. Uh, in revised they changed Fungasaur probably because of Pestilent Fungasaur so that you get a counter at the end of a turn instead of a counter for every time it takes damage. And they just massacred my boy for no reason. They actually fixed this in 8th edition. So this card got errated in revised editions because they were like because people were having too much fun with it. The fucking Fungasaur deck was too good, even though it's fucking not. Um People were mad about this, I guess, and complained, and so they made it at the end of a turn. Which I guess if you were already trying Fungasaur, maybe this didn't distract you from doing it, but yeah, I didn't even know. Yeah, they fucking and then in 8th against edition they changed. Like if you want to go through all the versions of Fungasaur, like start at alpha or beta or unlimited, the text is all the same, I'm pretty sure. And then look at revised, and then look at them until they get to uh 8th edition, I think it is. I think in 8th edition. I could be wrong on that. It was like 8th or ninth, maybe 7th edition, where they reprinted it and they changed it back to where every time it takes a damage and doesn't die, it triggers and gets a +1/+1 counter. I love this card so much. It's fantastic with Pestilence, which deals a damage to every creature, right? So the whole point of the deck is the first half of the damage you deal is with Pestilence. It's like a Rosewater card before you even join WotC. Yeah, yeah, that's a pretty solid example. Um, just like how Goblin Balloon Brigades in Alpha because of the way it's worded. Yes, yeah, the way it's worded, it sounds like it gives all goblins flying, which I think is also like not so strong that you can't do that. Um, and I think Alpha 40 uses the as written text on Balloon Goblin Balloon Brigade. Um, I have a dinosaur commander deck that has Pyrohemia. That's cool. That is oh, okay, good. Thank you, because I was trying to remember the color shifted pestilence. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Does it also have that like really fucking sick red dinosaur that does when it deals damage, it does something really cool? I forget what the fuck it's called or even what it does, but it's pretty cool. Jensen learned something today. My deck had revised in 4th Fungasaur. So did you play that deck where you could only deal 1 damage to get the +1/+1, or did you just like say fuck it? Um, how did you play that out? Like when you had Pestilence and Fungasaur? Um, Pestilent Fungasaur is one of the coolest decks ever. I love it so much. It's not particularly super strong, but it's great fun. Um, the art was done by Daniel Gellin, and some of the comments have talked about it, but the art's really cool. It is unsettling art. It's kind of spooky. I love it. Yeah, the trick was playing a single. Okay, so it was more of a like, I don't want to say necessarily control, but a slow burn. Yeah, look at the Fungasaur 5th edition art. Yeah, is that the messed up one? I don't hate it. It's not your boy though. Or later. Yeah, once it can survive more. Have we talked about Iron Claw Orcs yet? Yeah, we're on the green cards. We've talked about all the other colors. Everything was slow back then. Yeah, that's definitely true. It's not so bad when everything is slow. And maybe like it's hard for me to imagine that environment because when I build decks for these games, right? Like I know what a fucking mana curve is and consistency, so it's hard to get the like full woe unless I'm playing like Chandelar. I've never used Fungasaur and Chandelar. Is it even in the game? Huh, that might be something to look into. Um, that's interesting. Well, as long as you were enjoying the deck, hell yeah. But yeah, the unlimited version of Fungasaur, you could do it. And also, like, another thing they kind of did, well, Thanks, Greggy. I'm glad you're enjoying it. This is a lot of fun talking to people about old cards. Um, the rulings at the time when they like first started doing rulings and issuing rulings into the duelist was is that you kind of just played the card as written. So they were like for Fungusaur it said if it's a revised or later version, it's once per turn, but if it's not, it can do it like which is really an interesting way to do it. And to think they probably designed this card thinking you'll get the boost by blocking off smaller creatures. Yeah, probably, right? Because if you look at it, it's not too different than Sengir Vampire's ability. They trigger different ways and they work differently, but like if you look back at like the core concept, it probably comes down to them being different abilities just because they were like in the designer's head and he wrote them differently. Just looked up the fifth edition. Yeah, it is ridiculous. I don't hate the art, but it's not Fungusaur. I was laughed at when I explained the concept of a mana curve back when the Duelish published their slide deck write up. Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's really funny. People like to be stuck in their ways, and people like to think they know it all. Being laughed at for being like, "Yo, if you play cards in a mathematical way and have more of the low end cards, that's pretty funny." Um, Fungusaur's a great card. I love this card. Um, I think this card is really great because I like to think they at least thought of the concept of this in Pestilence. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't even consider it. It's hard to say. But if they did consider it, it's a bit of design genius because it really only takes a few steps to get there, but it does take a few steps to get there, right? So it really makes you feel smart when you're like, oh, I could Pestilence this and just fucking hit him with a big 5/5 in a few turns. Fifth edition had some interesting art choices. The I love the fifth edition flight art personally. I think it is the funniest fucking thing. It brings me such joy. It's like a Godzilla fungus field iguana cousin. Yeah, that's a interesting way to describe the fifth edition art. Yeah. Um, Fungusaur, Fungusaur, Fungusaur. Is there anything else to like say about Fungusaur? Um, it's really cool. Flying Zebra goes hard. It does go hard. Um, I like the Fungusaur smiling in the art with his nice big sharp teeth. Loved your Chandelar video. Thanks. I've made I think five Chandelar videos now. It might be six. I don't know. Probably the popular one. Um, I think the stealing a deck in Chandelar video is probably my favorite of them all, just because that actually has some really good knowledge in it. Uh, but thank you. You can make a decent Power Rangers video. Yeah, yeah, he would. Claymation style would be funny as shit. Um, I think that's all there is to say on Fungusaur. I like him, but I also really like the next card. Uh, I guess just to summarize quick, Fungusaur is decent and it's interesting. Revised killed my baby. He was way better before they made Revised. And then 8th edition saved him. Speaking of possibly unintentional interaction, there's no way they made cards like Howling Mine and Winter Orb that can be turned off with tapped without Icy Manipulator in mind. Yeah, that's very interesting, for sure. Um, Potentially unintentional interaction. Yeah, there's really it's really hard to even like grasp if that was intentional or not, right? Because the idea of artifacts being turned off when they're tapped makes sense from like oh this object is now inert, but how could you even come up with that rule without Back then, all artifacts turned off when they. Yeah, yes, they did. But what? Why would you even like? The rule makes sense from a thematic and flavorful way, and then designing cards with that rule in mind also makes sense. But how? What? Like, why would that rule ever come up without cards like Icy Manipulator? Right? Like, if you had no way to tap any of them, why would that even be a rule? Right? So it's really hard to think of like what parts of that they considered and how far down the line of implications did they actually consider for that. um it's interesting to think of, right? Honestly, I would love more Chandelar stream because the game needs all the love it can get. Yeah, I plan on keep streaming Chandelar. I haven't decided on a streaming schedule yet at all. This is the like first week that I'm streaming, and it's going a lot better than I anticipated. This was also kind of a test to see like if people wanted to do other streams. Um, but I am going to but I'm going to keep doing that. I'd love a Chandelar stream explaining how to get the game to work correctly. There's so much variation in it out there, official or not, and it's confusing. I can 100% agree with it being confusing. I don't know that I'm in a position to like actually help people meaningfully with that. Um, I there is a subreddit called r/Chandelar out there, and they have a very popular post called "Here is Chandelar," and there's a few different links to various versions, and there's some level of explanation on that. I went to Abandonware and got the OG version of it, downloaded the files, opened the file, and clicked the executable after changing my resolution to a type that was supported by the executable, and I have had zero problems with it. So I don't even know if I could answer any questions because I didn't have any issues and I've only messed with the original. It's the same with Time Vault and Twiddle, but in that case I can fully accept that those cards just coincidentally synergize. Yeah, it's also like not even egregious, right? Like even if you do untap your Time Vault with your Twiddle, right? You spent a blue mana and two colorless, right? Like they also made Time Walk, which is one colorless and a blue. So that interaction, like even if you did catch it as a designer, you'd be like, who gives a shit, right? Like that's just a fun puzzle for people to right? Figure out. It's not like they had any idea how strong Time Walk was. Like they knew it was strong, but not like, oh, what if every deck just runs four of this? Because it's like the best thing to be running. Um, okay. All right. I think I got to all that. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say on any of that. Um, Fungasaur is pretty cool. Let's talk about Gaia's Leash. I I really love Gaia's Leash. I think this card is just one of the most fantastic things in the game. And it's almost criminal, in my opinion, that this card it sucks. Like this card is the worst thing in the world. Okay, it's not the worst card. But it does suck. So Gaia's Liege costs 6 mana. It costs 3 colorless and 3 forests. That's not that big of a deal. So you can tap Gaia's Liege to turn any one land into a basic forest. Mark changed lands with counters, removing the counters when Gaia's Liege leaves play. Gaia's Liege has power and toughness equal to the number of forests controller has in play. When it's attacking, they are equal to the number of forests defender has in play. Summon Gaia's Leech, as though that would explain. It's really funny to me that they came up with the idea of like, oh, we'll have creature types, and then every creature type is just the name of the creature. I don't understand where like how that logic like why they thought that was a good idea. If Santa Claus was a druid. best wall ever. This card is so fucking cool. This card is so funny. Um, I have tried to make this card work so many times, right? So you build a deck and you can even be five color with it. You just make sure that all of them are like forests. So like you have so like you have savanna, you have four savannas and you have four taigas and you have four bayous and tropical island, that's the other one. Um and you like try to make a control deck, right? Because um this is I love the mustache. The art is really funny. The art is fantastic. You're looking for instill energy. Yeah, that if you are gonna try to do this, fucking instill energy is necessary. Fast bond is pretty good if you're trying to do this. Uh, Vesuvian Enchantress is pretty good because you're already kind of leaning into enchantments anyways. Is there any other way to change lands into forests in Alpha? I do not think there is. So there's Cormus Bell to change them into swamps. There's Cyclopean Tomb to change them into swamps. There's Evil Presence to change them into, I guess, Phantasmal Image in blue for two blue. That would not synergize well with this strategy, but you could change it into a forest with Phantasmal Image. Um, yeah. Um, but this card sucks. But it's so cool because if this card was a little bit better, think of the control deck you could make in mono green where instead of like blowing up their lands, you just you turn their Library of Alexandria into a forest. And then you turn their tropical or then you turn their volcanic island into a forest. And then it's not good, but it's so cool. It's so cool. I love this card. I wish it was good. I wish this was something that they would have like done any amount of. Tap to turn a land into a forest is just the funniest shit ever. Um, but this card is almost like too much in one package and not enough in one package, right? Because you have to make their lands into forests or you're never gonna kill them with this. Uh, it's a pretty good wall though, like people had said. I don't know. This is not a good card. But it is really funny. Yeah, I mean, if this cost one green, I think this might be good. Phantasmal Image is how you killed guys. Yeah, that makes sense. I hope my opponent exclusively plays off-color duels and that off-color is green. That'd definitely help out the situation. Um, yeah. This also just dies to Armageddon, right? Because if you have zero forests in play, it's a 0/0. Uh, there is too much standing in the way of this to be good. But I really wish it was good because it's such an interesting concept. Like this would be the funniest deck. Great when you have forest walking, dude. Yeah, I mean, sure, I guess. Like and there's a 1/1 forest walker. Shinoden Dryad, I think we'll get there. Honestly, just sitting on this card and turning all their lands into forests is really funny. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think it's better as like a control piece where like, it's no different than like a bunch of evil presences or something like that, right? And obviously that's not good all the time, right? Yeah, they die with all counter spells in hand when their entire mana base is green. Yeah, exactly. Because you can also like turn um their like you wouldn't do it to a forest, but if you did it to a taiga, it would then just be a forest. So now they don't have access to red. Restricting this card is decent decent at it. How am I trying to say this? This card is decent at screwing over land bases. It's not like strip mine or anything, but it's way fucking funnier than strip mine. Uh, if anyone would sit down and let you take the time necessary to do that, it'd be the funniest game ever. But it's too slow. It's too costly. Um, if it was cheaper, you get these out earlier. At least easier to cast than Force of Nature. It does have that going for it. It does have that going for it. Uh, it's kind of ironic that it's in a card color that you don't care. Like it's on a card that you would kind of not care, right? Because you want as many forests as possible. So so if it, I don't know that there'd be personally if this card just was green, green, green. I think this would be playable and pretty fucking cool. Um, the mana cost is just too high. But you get this down and you get a couple of instill energies on it, or if you got a couple of these down and a couple instill energies, man, funnier than hell. You take a few turns turning them all their lands into forests, and they're sitting there with fucking blue and white cards, and what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? It's so funny. It's bad though. Like, don't try this. You are not like if you are playing with anyone that knows how to build decks. This is not gonna work unless you craft the environment around this being allowed to sometimes work, and that's pretty hard to do. There's a lot of good cards, but this is so fucking funny. I wish they did stuff like this more often, but they don't. Um, Art by Damon Willick. We talked about the art a little bit. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. It's probably not the shade of green I would have gone for this, but you don't know, right? It came out in alpha. They didn't know. Um, let's talk about a more iconic card. Hear me out. You spirit link this and sit on it as a blocker forever. Yeah, you got to figure out a way to prevent them from just removing it, though, right? Imagine rage quitting a game because you lost a guy's leech control. That's the world I want to live in, right? uh, if anyone can figure it out, like if anyone can can look at the card pool and figure out and be like, yeah, this is definitely possible. Uh, hell yeah. Um, Gaius Leash Control would be so fucking funny. Anyways, we're talking about giant growth now. Target creature gains +3/+3 until end of turn. Uh, for green mana, it's an instant. It's part of the boon cycle. It's about as iconic cards come. Giant growth is so cool. Giant growth is so cool. Stir Splinters to range. Cousin, still so cool. One of the best green cards ever. Two copies of privileged position. Two copies. Yeah. All right. Nailed it. Yes, giant growth is so cool. It's such a I love the hilarious decks. That's the way to play them, dude. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Playing with unoptimal funny decks is way funner. Classic Python reference. The Boon Cycle, I think that's what the cycle's called. Yeah, it is called the Boon Cycle. Really puts into perspective what one mana should do. Yeah, it should draw you 3 cards. Or it should make a creature +3/+3. Or deal 3 damage. Or heal 3 damage. Or give you 3 mana. Is giant growth therefore overcosted? Yeah, way overcosted. Um, giant growth is like perfect, right? Like it's still in standard. Like they print this card all the time, and it's always decent. Um, obviously, this is a card that requires games to be about creature combat to some degree, but it is such a great combat trick. Um, yeah, I have won and lost a lot of games because of Giant Growth, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's such an iconic card. Sandra Everingham did the art, and the art is really cool. I like how it's a defensive spell as well. Yeah, it is a defensive spell. It's a defensive spell. It's a removal spell in the right circumstances, and it's a kill spell, right? It's in some ways it's more versatile than Lightning Bolt. In a lot of ways, it's not because it requires, right, like for it to be removal, they have to swing in or block something, right? So for it to do that, it depends on your opponent doing something. For it to like kill them, like you have to attack and they have to not block or have trample for right. So it's less versatile than other spells, but it is really powerful and versatile. Fat Rat. It is a Fat Rat. The art's fantastic. It's such a cool card. Um, this is one of those cards where they just kind of nailed it the first time, and like this is a level that the game should be balanced around. Personally, in my opinion, I think the game is good when it's balanced around this kind of thing being good. It's so omnipresent, you always have to think about it. Yeah, yeah, that's something I've been learning a lot recently too, because it's also so kind of innocuous that it's easier to slip under the radar, right? Like two blue is a giant warning sign, right? And even a red mana up is a giant warning sign. That the one green should be as big of a warning sign, but for a lot of people, it just isn't. And yeah, it's not good in super high power formats, right? But like creature damage happens a lot less in those formats, right? So it definitely needs that. Uh, Darth said, keeping my Gaia's Leech alive until end of turn when they Armageddon. Yeah, and that's another problem with it, right? Like, it's way too, going back to the Gaia's Leech, it's way too risky to do anything with it. Um, while all the removal in the world is as good as it will ever be in Magic. Um, yeah, Gaia's Leech died to Armageddon since, but I like Armageddon. I just think Gaia's Leech should be cheaper. Giant Growth is a great card, right? There's not too much else to say about it. Iconic as hell. Part of the most iconic lesson regarding how to play the game and how the stack works. If they bolt your bear, target it with a Giant Growth and it's 5. Yeah, another great point. Yeah, aspect of using it defensively. Um, yeah, it's a versatile card. It's a versatile card. I don't think there's too much else to say about it though. So we'll go ahead and move on to Giant Spider. Yeah, Giant Growth, not mutagenic growth. I figured that's what you meant. Um, Giant Spider, another giant thing. This is a 2/4. For 3 and a green. It does not fly, but can block flying creatures. So it has reach. Back before reach was a keyword. It's a 2/4 with reach. That's pretty okay, right? Like, if you're playing against flying men the deck, this is okay. um, there are definitely situations where this is the most annoying fucking thing on the planet. And a 2/4 for 4 mana at the time is it's not ideal, but it's not as bad as it looks either. Um, it is a cool card. It's a flavorful card too, and I like that it has this special ability, right? That's a term they don't use anymore because it's all keywords, but back then they'd call them special abilities. My boy Giant Spider, 2 hit for both flying and reach. Put this on a flying carpet. That'll show them. Oh, I can show you the world. It's just a fucking giant spider. So fucking funny. Um, yeah, giant spider's okay. It's pretty cool. It's very evocative and flavorful, and cards like this really, really help make the world feel bigger, right? The art's pretty fucking great too. It's another Sandra Everingham piece, and I like it. Um, there really isn't too much else to say about it though, right? Like we can make some jokes. That's decent, right? If you have something that is a flyer that does less than 4 damage and has less than 2 life, it's pretty rough. Honestly, the fact that giant spider technically is evaluating in the air is elevating in the air because it sits on a web, they could have gotten away with giving it fly. Um, Other than green creatures not getting flying in the alpha days. I will push back on that second part of the comment. The first part of the comment, yeah, I could see that. I do see the distinction because with the web, it's not like flying is the freedom to go anywhere, right? Directly, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's not talk about that. WotC was made a hit list or something. So let's just pretend that set doesn't exist. What was I saying? Right. Anyways, with the reach, it makes sense that the flying that the spider can be up in the air anywhere the web is, but flying like you can go anywhere. So they could have, but I do like the distinction they made. And other than green creatures not getting flying in the alpha days, that's interesting because off the top of my head, there is in alpha there's scribe sprites, birds of paradise, and cockatrice, which is 3 cards with flying. Um, I don't know if there's any more, but they did get some level of flying early on. They generally don't get big flyers, right? Like they don't get dragons and stuff like that, but they get like birds and stuff like that. Um, it'd actually be interesting to look and see what the rate of flying for green per set is, but that's a lot of data collation I'm not gonna do. Giant Spider's pretty cool though. It's a good card, kind of. It's decent and limited if they have flyers. Um, I completely forgot cockatrice. Yeah, well, it's easy to forget that there's right because a lot of the flying creatures are pretty innocuous, other than birds of paradise. But that one also isn't really seen as counting because it's not like it's using the flying for anything other than defensively as an oh shit moment. Like I mean, I have won games where I've swung in with a berserk howl from beyond birds of paradise, but that's not really the intention of it. Um, so like it makes sense. The image of the giant spider on a magic carpet is so funny to me. Imagine you think you are safe with your island sanctuary and then the spider flies. Yeah. Yeah, imagine a giant spider getting dropped on your island sanctuary. Fuck, man, fuck that. Grizzly bear is about as classic gets, right? Killer bees does have flying. That is Killer bees is legends, right? I think Killer bee is legends. Perched on a standard size carpet. I am imagining it. It's funny as hell. Uh, Grizzly Bears. It's a 2-2 for 2. The first 2-2 for 2. Well, one in a generic. It was illustrated by Jeff A. Menges, and it's solid. Grizzly Bears, hell yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. It's it's a fair rate. Like this is fair magic. If you're casting Grizzly Bears, you are playing fair magic. It is one of the most iconic cards of all time. Yeah, it's a cool card, but it's a vanilla. There isn't too much to say about it. Um, it's a fair rate. Um, Yeah, I got nothing else for Grizzly Bear. It's iconic, but there isn't much to say about it. So let's talk about Hurricane. It does have good flavor text. Uh, Grizzly Bears, that is. Hurricane. Hurricane is a super interesting card. Even today, people call 2/2 for 2 a bear no matter the card. Yep. Yeah, that's how iconic it is, right? To find it. Reanimating grizzly bears with an anime dead is fair magic. I agree. That's definitely fair magic. Hurricane's really good. Um, all players and all flying creatures suffer X damage. So it's green earthquake, which is really funny to me. Uh, they do not give green burn anymore, but they did it. I don't want to say fairly regularly, but they did it a few times. And Hurricane is the best example of it. Card straight from Alpha, as old as they come. Hurricane, which flavorfully makes sense. Green's finisher. I think I killed more opponents than flyers with this. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The fact that it hits flying creatures is definitely cool, but the major versatility of this is just having a green lightning bolt that's a little less efficient. Hurricane is an awesome finisher. Not a bad win in Gaia's Leech Control. Yeah, if we ever get to the point where we can cast it, it's not a bad finisher in Gaia's Leech Control. I like Hurricane. I think this is fun. This Gaia's Leech Control thing. If you can make it work, I'd be so proud of you. If it's not a thing. It'd be funny. It would be so fucking funny. You're gonna have a bad time if you try to make that work. The green earthquake. Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's the green earthquake. Um, being able to hit flying creatures is definitely relevant, but it's like not the reason you're playing this card. I just love the implication that hurricanes in Dominaria only affect flyers and not grounded creatures. Uh, yeah, yeah. It is a it is an interesting implication. Um, yeah, Hurricane is a cool card. It's a really cool card. Um, I guess I don't really have anything else to say about it. The art's really cool. It's a Damon Willick piece. Um, Willick, Damian Willick. I think that most cards have a spiritual equivalent on each color. Um, yeah, I don't know if I would confidently say most, but most of the core card, like any of the like really core card ideas, right? Like there's a bunch of fogs, right? And every color has a fog effect. Um, Gaia's Leech could maybe work in revised 40. It should be X green green. Um, yeah, it probably should. As someone who likes killing players with this, I disagree, but it probably should. Um, yeah, it's a really cool card though. Um, I can understand people that are like, "Oh, it goes against the color pie," but I like it. There really isn't anything else to say about it though. It's the green earthquake with all the implications that has. Let's talk about instill energy. Instill energy is a very interesting card. For 1 green mana, you get an enchant creature, and you may untap target creature 1 additional time during your turn. Target creature may also attack the turn it comes into play. Uh, so this is busted with Gaia's Leech, right? Because then you can turn 2 lands into a forest each turn. uh, get out of my head, dude. Instill energy is pretty busted. The funniest busted thing to do with it is to use it, which doesn't work in revise because they took time vault out. But in alpha, what you would do is time vault, animate artifact, instill energy. Boom, infinite turns. So the intention from the designers is that you were going to use Hurricane against Blue, right? Because tsunami is another water-related natural disaster that hits on island. Yeah, yeah, pretty much, right? Like mostly targeting the fact that Blue is a lot of flyers, and with the yeah, I think that's correct. That's probably what the intention was. We're not gonna. If we get enough people playing it, we'll trick everyone into just playing bad deck. It's such a cool concept though, right? Like the idea gets into your head and you're like, that is so funny. Uh Instill Energy is a good card. Um it's another piece by Damon Willick. Even if you're just playing this fair, it's pretty solid. It's really good on Birds of Paradise because the Birds of Paradise can pay for it, and then you're just getting 2 mana for your birds every turn. Um you can use it to haste creatures, right? Like if you're trying to make Force of Nature work, instill energying on it is probably a good idea. Yeah, you can also use it with Ley Druid and Wild Growth. Yeah, yeah. That's that's another really solid use of it. Those are basically the uses. You either use this to ramp. All right, Tristan, you have a good time. You have a good day. Thanks for stopping by. Uh, where was it? Right. Okay, so you basically use instant energy either to ramp, to use it to haste to like get your big beater down, which is probably the like worst use of this or most fair magic use of it, or you can use it to combo for infinite turns. But it's either to like make a bunch of mana, swing in faster, and hold a blocker up, or looks like Arbor Elf and Utopia Sprawling. Still energy allows one more late. Yeah, yeah, that's good. It is also vigilance. Yeah. Um yeah, it's a pretty versatile card. Um I don't think it ever like it did do some stuff, but this isn't like a power card, right? Like it's not as busted as a lot of the other stuff. It works really well with busted cards. It's the combo you use in my Jank Revised 40 deck to turbo out Force of Nature. Yeah, yeah, like if you're turboing out Force of Nature, Instill Energy is great in a couple aspects, right? Because if you draw it later and it's just one extra mana to like swing with your Force of Nature immediately and also like block on the clapback, that's a pretty good use of the card. Instill Energy is fun. Like it does prop up, might not be the right word, but it attempts to prop up some pretty bad strategies. Um, and even doing like the Instill Energy Time Vault combo is not the most optimal thing you can be doing. Like if those cards are legal, there is better, faster ways to win the game. Uh, so Instill Energy is fun. I really like it. Uh, Damon Willick did the art. Did I mention that? It's pretty good. It's a cool card. It's really interesting. It's I hesitate to call it an ridiculously strong card, but I also don't want to call it weak. And it is pretty versatile. But now I'm just repeating myself, so we might as well move on. It's a really cool card. I like it. Um, it's no power 9. Yeah, you're just better off twiddling the vault. Yeah, for sure. Um, or even just like not playing the vault and like playing Channel Fireball or something else, right? Like vault is okay, but it's like you're better off if you want the extra turns. You're better off playing Time Walk. I mean, you can play Time Walk, Twiddle, and Vault to get more extra turns. Um, but it's just not even super optimal at the highest level. Um, it's fun though. It's the first card that gives that itch of the untapped green white. Yeah, for sure. Man, that art. Good old 5 mana 3/5s. Yeah. 5 mana 3/5. Nothing else. Illustrated by Jesper Myrfors. Uh Iron Root Tree Folk is fucking hilarious for all the reasons that I would not want to be hilarious if I was a Magic card. Um, it's a 3/5 tree for 5 mana with really dumb artwork. Somehow got weirder art in 5th edition. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. Maybe in the future I should set these up so I can easily. I guess I could just pop to the art real quick. Yeah. Look at that for a second. Yeah, 5th edition got pretty wild with a lot of their arts. I don't necessarily hate the idea, but some of them are really funny. Um, I don't know what else to say about a 3/5 for 5 mana. Uh, Especially since the next card is really fucking interesting. So let's just go on to Kudzu. Uh, the art's okay on Iron Root Tree Folk. Let's talk about Kudzu. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I guess they didn't make it a wall because they didn't like enhance the concept of walls to include things that don't move that are alive. Like I think the first one that did that with was in like Legends. There was a carnivorous plant. It might have even been the Dark. Um, but yeah, it's a tree that doesn't look like it moves. So it's weird that it isn't a wall. Kudzu is such a banger. Kudzu is such a banger. Kudzu is such an interesting card. So Kudzu costs 1 and 2 green. It's an enchant land, and when target land becomes tapped, it is destroyed. Unless that was the last land in play, Kudzu is not discarded. Instead, the player whose land it just destroyed may place it on any other land in play. Like I refuse to. Yeah, it's hard to imagine a tree. Well, I guess they knock over, right? Like they attack houses in real life. Have you ever? Yeah. uh, it should have tap, sacrifice, destroy target creature or land because it's fallen over. That would be really funny. But Kudzu's great. Getting off of the dumb 3/5 tree. Uh, so basically, how Kudzu works, if it's a little confusing, is you put it on a land, it gets tapped and destroyed, and then that person puts it on one of your lands, and then it just goes back and forth until all land is destroyed. Hey Link, welcome. Glad you could make it. We're talking about Kudzu. Super sweet fucking card. Um, I really like this card. It's very interesting. It asks very interesting cards out of your deck construction, or asks very interesting questions about your deck construction and what like you're trying to go for. A very accurate. Yes, that's another thing. It's very flavorful to what like kudzu actually is, which is a real fucking problem for a lot of people. Not on yeah. I can't really speak on it too much. I don't deal with kudzu myself, but the flavor on this card is just really sweet. Mark Poole did the art, and the art's pretty funny too. Um, but the card itself is just really interesting. It probably does not synergize with your Gaia's Liege deck though, so keep that in mind. Um, I really like Kudzu. Uh, it It's a shame it doesn't see more play. I think Kudzu would be a fucking fantastic commander card, just with the way commander works. But you like never see it because it's a land destruction card. But this is the kind of thing. This is the kind of mind game, mini game thing that just goes hard when you add more players, right? It's like, um, I was gonna say it's kind of similar to Rainbow Veil, the land in Fallen Empires where you can tap to add a color and then it goes to an opponent. This is different, but it is the same kind of energy. We had someone go missing for 5 years around here. They found them in their car under a massive kudzu. They ran off the road in a kudzu gorge and died. That's really sad. It is believable. Like, this shit is just fucking impossible to deal with from what I hear. Um, yeah, that's really sad. Card's interesting though. Just the thought that Ice Storm does the same thing as this, but like more effective. I mean, it depends on what this is, because Ice Storm destroys a land and it's easier to cast because it's two and a green. Um, because it's two and a green instead of being one and two green. But it only destroys one land. If you're trying to like blow up all of their lands, Kudzu does that better. Of course, Armageddon does that better than Kudzu. But Kudzu is really interesting. I would say Kudzu is not like a super optimal card. It's probably why we don't see it. Any card that gives your opponent decisions isn't going to be a really competitively viable thing, and Kudzu is no different. I just think it's really interesting and really fun at like not the sweatiest of sweat level of play. Jungle's a bit around me. Yeah, that sucks. The stuff is apparently incredibly invasive. It's crazy shit like that can happen. It is pretty flavorful for Kudzu, the card. Um, yeah, I guess that's all I have on Kudzu. It's banger after banger though. Next we have Ley Druid. The seeds are delicious from what I've heard too, and it makes for a good starch if it isn't contaminated. That seems like a Pandora's box situation to me. I mean, I guess like use it if you have it, right? But um, seems dangerous to keep it just for the seeds. That's interesting. And it makes for a good starch. At least there's like uses for it, right? Anyway, Ley Druid. Ley Druid is a 1/1 that costs 2 and a green, and you can tap to untap a land of your choice. This ability is played as an interrupt. Gandalf discovers weed. Yeah. Like hell yeah. Huh. Neato. um Ley Druid became so much better past Alpha and Beta. Yeah, this is one of those cards that scales with like how good are the lands, right? And they get pretty good. Uh, I think there are cards like this that cost well, there are cards that do this that cost less these days, but Ley Druid laid the groundwork for that. Ley Druid is pretty interesting. We've talked about it a little bit already. Um, Chad has said some interesting stuff about it. Like you can use it within still energy when we were talking about that. The Arbor help Normie's got nothing on you. Only mouse. Uh, Ley Druid is pretty great, right? Like, if you're going to be abusing this some way, it's funny as hell. Um, in revised. It's not necessarily the strongest thing, but if you combine it with like Wild Growth specifically and Instill Energy, it's pretty solid. Uh, Sandra Everingham did the art for Ley Druid, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good art. This is a beloved card. I like the card. It's pretty interesting, useful in very specific situations. It does die to a Prodigal Sorcerer though, which is unfortunate. I don't know that there's anything else to say about it. Tell you what, I'm gonna go grab some more water so my throat doesn't die. And if you guys have anything else to add about Ley Druid, do it, and we'll talk about it when I get back. Ley Druid honey, what are those? Oh, oh, sorry about that. Ley Druid honey, what are those nails? Yeah, yeah, the nails are pretty bad. I am going to take that as we do not have collectively any more good information about Ley Druid. So let's move on to Life Force, which is a pretty interesting card. So the Druid, it might imply that there is only one Ley Druid in lore, and so it should be legendary. That's a interesting point. And maybe it would be. Get it a Rodod stat. However, I do think this is probably the wrong chat to be asking them to hire you. I doubt they give a shit about anything I say or what goes on here. Life Force. 2 green mana for an enchantment, and then you can pay 2 green to counter a black spell as it is being cast. This use is played as an interrupt and does not affect black cards already in play. So it's 2 green to counter a black spell. It's pretty good if they're playing black, right? It's pretty good if they're playing black. Uh, I personally find stuff like this to be too niche to ever really be super useful. But I love the idea of it so much. Um, it's a really interesting card. It is it is one of those situations where it's probably too strong if it's actually good, and if it isn't good, it's not strong enough. Love the design, but it's so telegraphed. Yeah, it is so telegraphed. That's another big problem with it. It's telegraphed. You have to like one, it has to even be useful, right? Um, and two, it's telegraphed. Uh, the mana cost is pretty fair for it, honestly. But you do have to be pretty heavy green to be able to even use it. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's not really good, but it's interesting. It's one of those cards that I wish was good. Friend of an acquaintance had a signed artist proof of life force in Chinese. That's really interesting. It's a good as sidebar card. What in L states didn't exist? Um, well, the art is a green fetus in potentially an egg of energy. Um, It's a good sideboard card. What an L. So sideboards did come about fairly quickly, I think. Um, Not by Alpha. Alpha didn't. Alpha as itself wasn't really around too long. There's not too many. Nothing exceptional. Yeah, good one. Um, it wasn't around too long, and it wasn't too long after Alpha that they said, okay, no more than four per card and 60 card minimum deck, so that it's not super consistent. Um, and I'm pretty sure sideboards came out around the same time. Um, but I could be wrong. I think by revised sideboards were a thing. But yeah, and like very like the game was kind of conceptualized when Alpha came out. There was kind of just what they thought you would do is you would buy a starter deck and like three packs, and so everyone would play five color nonsense. Sideboards were first introduced in tournaments mid 94 or so. That sounds about right to me. I can't remember if sideboards came out when they like first introduced. When was the first official tournament? It depends on what you mean by like official, because pretty much right out the back, WotC was not necessarily doing official tournaments, but like provided official literature and stuff like that. Um, so I can only think of only three green cards that are counter magic. Life Force, Avoid Fate, and Rust are the three that come to my head off the top of my head. So if any of yours are different than that. Uh, but yeah, as far as the first official tournament, like again, it depends on what you mean. But like the Pro Tour didn't start. The Pro Tour was later than they had already started. I guess you would probably say most definitively the creation of the Duelist Convocation International is probably what you would point to as like when the first official tournament started up. That was their first push towards organized play. But they were offering like some level of tournament support from the beginning. They offered write ups on like how to do judging and how to do fair tournaments. They often like suggested like sealed tournaments. But then like the first ban lists came out pretty early on, by like Duelist issue 1 for sure. So it's pretty early that they were doing some level of official support, but it evolved quickly, right? Um, Life Force. Life Force is interesting. It's not a particularly good card, but it is cool to see counter magic. January of 94 is the earliest tournament that I can think of that had sideboards. Yeah, but January of 1994 is really fucking early, isn't it? Like, I mean, the game didn't like really come out until like August of 93. A little bit before that, but at any rate, I'm pretty sure January of 94 is like no more than 6 months after the game like released, which is pretty fucking early if you think about it. So, um, I don't know that there's anything else to say about Life Force. I like it. I think it's a really cool and interesting card. It's a card that's captivated me multiple times, but it's hard to actually find a place where it's useful. Um, so let us move on to Life Lace. Life Lace. Yeah, it's a color card. It's an instant, costs a green mana, changes the color of one card, either being played or already in play, to green. Cost a cast, tap, maintain, and use a special ability of target card remains entirely unchanged. Yeah, Life Lace. Um, I don't really have anything else to say about the color cards. They're not good. They're interesting. If you haven't caught like the earlier ones, um, should have drawn a card next. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we won't stay on this too long. What I will say is that Life Lace probably has the least memorable art. This is the one I always forget. Like say what you will about Chaos Lace, but the art kind of sticks in your brain. This one doesn't. The art's not bad, but the card is just so forgettable. Amy Weber did this, and the art's good. It's just forgettable. So we'll move on to what is a bad card. Uh, that might get some pushback. Would the card just be better if it was just a 2 green? So if it was counterspell specifically, but just hated on black? That's an interesting question. Love Amy Weber, but this is her worst. Yeah, that was her worst. This doesn't even remind me of Amy Weber style. No, it doesn't. It looks like something that she kind of threw together, which is fine. Living Artifact is bad, but I want it to be good. Yeah. Back to the counterspell thing. That's an interesting question. I honestly don't know. It would be way less telegraphed, which would make it potentially better. I mean, I don't know. Living Artifact. This is fucking crazy, man. The art is wild. It's I don't know what this art is even trying to imply. It looks like a weird thing that has grown in its cage, but it doesn't look like. To be fair, you could life lace a spell into green and then death grip to counter it. Yeah, yeah, you could do stuff like that, but now you're like down twice the cards you would be um to do something that you could be doing easier with better cards. I'm not like there's a lot of things you can do, but that's not particularly optimal. Living Artifact it really sucks. So it's a single green mana. Sorry, it's a single green mana for enchant artifact. So this gets put on an artifact. Put a counter on target artifact for each life you lose. During your upkeep, you may trade one counter for one life, but you can only trade in one counter during each of your upkeeps. So if you get hit with a lightning bolt, this puts 3 counters on this. And then during each of your upkeeps, you can remove a counter to gain one life. Um, this card is up there with Remove Soul and Raise Dead as the most misleading name of card. Yeah, I'll give you that. Um, yeah, I'll give you that. It's a wild thing. I'm a Bob. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, the card's pretty bad. Uh, it sees more play in Chandelar than it probably should, which is funny. Most of the time when this goes down, I'm like, oh, thank God they didn't actually have a real card. It's slow. The art is crazy. Anson Maddox like went hard with this one. It's so fucking wild. It's not a good card though. The Green Farmstead. It is better than Farmstead, to be fair. It's wild that they made both of those things. I mean, I guess you could also argue it's a little bit worse because, well, no, it's not. Because it targets an artifact, but you can put it on your own artifact, so you can still control the situation. Uh, it's not a good card, though. It's not something you should be running. The art is ridiculous. I do like the art. Like, it doesn't even. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. I'm not entirely sure what the flavor of this card is suggesting. Uh, I think it's yeah. I got nothing. I don't like. I don't understand. Um, it's so fucking funny though. I don't really have anything else to say about Living Artifact though. I don't understand the flavor of it. The card sucks. It's slow, and the art is kind of creepy. Uh, it is probably one of the funnier cards though. But let's move on to a card that actually is kind of decent, depending on the circumstances. Living Land is an enchantment that costs 3 and a green, and treat all forests in play as 1/1 creatures. Now they can be enchanted, killed, and so forth, and they can be tapped either for mana or to attack. Alright. I do love Alpha art, but sometimes it just confuses you. Like, what even is Winter Orb's art supposed to represent? That's a great question. We'll talk about it a little bit when we get there. Even ignoring the timing considerations, green green to counter a black spell versus green 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 to counter a black spell slash green 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 to counter two black spells, etc. 4+ mana to counter any spell isn't good. Yeah, that's true. The upside of it sticking around doesn't redeem that. Yeah, that's a good point. Green green to counter a black spell as an instant probably is a better card. I don't I think you're right, Alex. This with Gaia's Leech to ping the enemy lands away with. Great setup. Living seems like a good card in Gaia's Leech. Yeah, it does. Good card in Gaia's Leech control. Oh, it's such a cool idea. Please, WotC from 30 years ago, give Alpha Winter Orb some flavor text. It could definitely use it. Hey, uh, Living Lands is actually a pretty solid card. What up, dude? Um, yeah, treat all forests in play as 1/1 creatures. So, like, the not brain rotted idea with this card is to play a bunch of forests and then cast this and then swing in with your forests as a part of your army, right? Um, that can be good. That can be good. It yeah, I don't know. It can be good, but it's generally not. Yes, earthquake my entire board, please. Yeah, see that is definitely the problem. So you can play this in Gaia's Leech Control along with blue to ping all their lands with Prodigal Sorcerer. Yes, that is the most optimal way to play this card. 100% agree. You read my mind. Uh, treat all forests in play as 1/1 creatures. Uh, yeah, right. Like that comes with all the upside and all the downside of them being creatures. Those lands don't seem to want to live. Yes, they do. They want to be blown up by a Prodigal Sorcerer or an earthquake or a fireball. They survive hurricanes though, right? So they have that going for them. Uh, yeah, Living Lands is okay. Like you could definitely build a deck around this and it be maybe decent depending on what everyone else is playing. Like this ain't no vintage strategy, right? uh, the art was done by Jesper Meerfers and I like the art. The art is really funny, kind of cool. They look like Living Lands. They look terrified. Um, or you play this in a green red aggro deck with Orcish Oriflame to make all your forests 2/1s. Yeah, that'd be really good, Firewall. Did I play a lot of limited back in the day? Depends on what you mean by back in the day, but the answer is no. I didn't even get into the game until like 2005. I'm just a nerd that was super hyper fixated on how card games like became what they are because I was like ground floor on both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, but I didn't get into Magic until 2005. And then from that and then I played it on and off a little bit, but I didn't really know that many people that played it. So I then again stopped playing it until 2017. And from most of my knowledge on the game comes from after that. I play a lot of limited now though, because I just think limited is a better way to play the game. Um, Living Lands. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid and limited. Um, really funny in Gaia's Leech. Oh man. Um, I don't know. Does anyone else have any dumb, funny jokes that they want to say about living land, or any legitimate strategies that I haven't mentioned? Yeah, probably not. All right, Land of War elves. I love how seemingly every strap back in the Alpha Day circles back to land destruction. Yeah, super hot take, but I thought the game was more interesting and more balanced when lands were destroyed a lot. Um, I'm more of a constructed person myself. Nothing wrong with that. Constructed is pretty fun too. I just don't like things getting pushed out. Like, who wants to draft revise? Just take a line of credit on your house. Revise, yeah. Actually, the boxes are pretty expensive. Just buy the cards into a cube. Obviously, some of them are pretty fucking pricey, but a lot of them are like 35 cents. What a banger of a card, 10-10. Yeah, Land of War Elves is fantastic. I like Land of War Elves for a few reasons. One, it's such a classic card, right? It's a 1/1 for a green mana, and you can tap to add a green to your mana pool. That ability is played as an interrupt. Anson Matic did the art for this, and it's really cool. It's not what you would think of when you see the card. Like, this was one of the arts that I was just blown away by when I saw, but I don't hate it. Um, yeah, Land of War Elves is good. It's a little bit worse than Birds of Paradise, but it's still pretty awesome. The fact that Land of War Elves is a 30-plus-year-old card that still sees play tells you everything you need to know about the card. Yeah, and that they still print into standard, right? So it's not even that it's good, it's that it's good, but it's not so good that the game can't be balanced around it in a healthy way, right? Like, this doesn't pop up in every standard, but it sure as fuck pops up in a lot of them. Or if Llanowar itself doesn't, then Findhorn Elves does, or Elvish Mystic, right? Or one of its strictly exactly the same clones. Llanowar Elves is a well-designed card. That's really all you can say about it. It's good. There aren't many people out there that complain about it, right? Like, you go online, you can see people bitching about stasis. You can see people bitching about land destruction. You can see people bitching about counter spells or lightning bolt or pretty much any card that is like strong enough to affect the meta. You see people complain about it. But I rarely ever hear anyone say that Llanowar Elves is a problem. This card's art kind of creeped me out when I first saw it. Yeah, I agree completely. It creeped me out too. That was part of what made it so captivating, honestly, in a way. Um, it kind of treats the elves as more alien than most art around elves does, which I think is probably a good thing since they are like a different species and like have different cultures and ways of thinking. Um, Land of War Elves is a cool card. Ba, ba, ba. I guess that's kind of all there is to say about it, though, right? It's a classic. It's a great card. Findorn Elves and an Elvish Mystic would never have Llanowar strip. Yeah, I agree. Um, Findorn Elves is pretty funny too. The original art of it. Um, yeah, I guess let's move on to Lure, shall we? Lure. Lure is an interesting card. Lure is an enchant creature that costs one. Our little emote. Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Uh, Not as emo as like Elves of Deep Shadow though. Lure, 1 and 2 green. It's an enchant creature. All creatures able to block target creature must do so. If a creature has the ability to block more than one creature, Lure does not prevent this. If there is more than one attacking creature with Lure, defender may choose which of them each defending creature blocks. Also, elves is subjectively, objectively the best tribe. Sorry, silver players. I thought it was goblins because the goblins have like combos that can win real games. Uh, Elf Ball is pretty cool though. Merfolk player is out there fucking crying now, right? Uh, Lure, another green win con. Yeah, yeah. Like the point of lure is you put it on your creature that sucks, and then swing in with your big dude that doesn't suck, and you win the game. Or you put it on your creature that doesn't suck, and you blow up all their creatures, and you win the game. There are a few ways to play it. It's a good card. Um, Again, every player back in the day thought they were geniuses for thinking if I enchant Cockatrice with Lure, holy shit. Elves enjoyers in the chat. Nothing wrong with that. I like elves. Uh, elves is a cool elves are cool decks. Cockatrice with Lure, holy shit. Not Cockatrice, Thicket Basilisk. Whichever one you had, like Thicket Basilisk is better because more things have to block it for sure, but it's a good use of Lure. Such a cool game when people can be like, I'm a fucking genius. Just following the game's like designs. Um, Art was done by Anson Maddox, and the art is really interesting for Lure. Not entirely sure I get the concept of what's going on, other than it's like something that people want. But Lure is a good card. It's not a great card. This is like a limited or kitchen table banger, right? Um, 3 mana is kind of expensive for the effect these days. Not at the time because this is the only card that does this effect. But yeah, Lure's pretty good. Lure's pretty interesting. Um, I can't really think of anything else to say about it though. Let's skedaddle on to regeneration. It's on an equipment. um, yeah. Regeneration is an enchant creature that costs 1 and a green, and it gives you the ability to pay green to regenerate the creature it's equipped to. Um, Illustrated by Quentin Hoover. The art is pretty good. Um, this is actually one of his pieces. This and Wrath of God are probably the pieces of his that I like the best. Um, so yeah, solid art. It's it's okay. Um, this is a card that on paper when you read it it sounds really neat, but when you play it it doesn't do too much. Yeah, regeneration doesn't it, regeneration itself is an interesting concept, but a lot of the times, especially in constructed, you're just getting everything swordsed, right? So like it ends up like not being that huge of a deal. At like low level, you're playing this a micro worm and immediately getting swords was a big sag. Yeah, for real, right? A lot of this stuff just doesn't mean anything. Um, Another thing that I see often is like having the mana to like deploy this and the thing, and then being 1 mana short of being able to regenerate it and just getting it teared immediately before you have the chance to untap. Obviously, that's a bit of a like player scale thing, but the point is yeah, regeneration reads really cool. It's like, oh, that this is great, but it's almost never worth paying 2 mana and a card to protect something in a way like this. Like, I guess I don't know really how to explain why this isn't as good as it looks, but it's not. Yeah, and they can just terror it before it resolves. Does terror berry? I should know that. Okay. Yeah, so it doesn't even protect against. Yeah, like this is way better if you guys are like playing limited, right? Or like just creatures and like no real removal options. Then regeneration does all right, but like Wrath of God berries, I know that. So yeah, regeneration is both like really good and annoying to deal with, but like going the extra step to like add regeneration to something just generally is not worth it. Even if Swords to Plowshare didn't exist, but it does, so it's doubly not worth it. There's really not much else to say about that. And the next card is really, really interesting. So let's talk about it. Regrowth. In the context of like Alpha, Regrowth might be the best green card. Um, because Regrowth can get you Time Twister. Regrowth can get you Time Walk. Regrowth can get you Black Lotus, if that's what you really want to be doing. Um, Regrowth is only as strong as the cards around it, uh, which is a great balancing mechanic. Like Regrowth is a perfectly fine card in a limited environment or an environment that doesn't have busted cards. They still print this kind of often. Like at that point, just play a small creature that regens instead of investing 2 cards. Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Um, I guess it's like you said, if you play it on a big dude, you won't have the mana left to regenerate. It does. Yeah, and even on the big deal dude, it does still kind of feel like a waste a lot of the time. Regrowth never feels like a waste. Regrowth is awesome. It's like Demonic Tutor, but for your graveyard. If you have good cards in your graveyard, this is fucking great. Um, at lower power levels, this is fine, right? It just brings back something that got removed or for around the same amount of mana that it got removed. So they spent a card and 1 to 2 mana to remove it. You spent a card and 2 mana to put it into your hand so that you could then spend the mana to cast it again. Uh, Regrowth is interesting. It's really, really good when the cards around it are really, really good. Uh, I play this card a lot. I like Regrowth. The art is absolutely phenomenal. The art is so fantastic, in my opinion. It's semi-realistic, like pretty close to realistic. Not to the same level that like Curd Ape is at as far as realistic drawing goes, but pretty fucking close. In revised 40, you regrowth your brain geysers to deck your opponent, which is very easy to do with 40 card decks. Yeah, for sure. I'm not surprised. Um, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You can regrowth anything, right? Anything that's good, right? Like if it helps you win the game, you can get it back. If it helps you stay in the game, you can get it back. If you want a demonic tutor for 2 things, you can demonic tutor and regrowth, right? So you're spending 6 mana to get 2 things at that point, but like that might be worth it. Regrowth is really good. And it also like I said, it depends entirely on what's around it. So it's not even necessarily all that strong. Also, regrowthing a demonic tutor feels like cheating if the card has some sort of restriction to it. Yeah, exactly. And like you can it's in 40 card decks where the card pool is small enough, you can like time twister loop with a regrowth and a time twister. Because you time twister and it goes into the graveyard and regrowth yeah, exactly. It's restricted because of the busted shit it can do. Um but you can time twister loop with it, right? Like you have to draw the cards, obviously, but like with your Wheel of Fortune and your demonic tutor, not that. Yeah, you time twister, you regrowth, you time twister again, and then the regrowth gets put back into your deck, and you can just keep doing that over and over again, assuming you draw that into the cards. Um, yeah, I guess that's the best thing to say about regrowth. Its strength depends on the cards around it. So it can be really busted, and it can also be totally fine if you're not playing with busted cards. But if you're playing with busted cards, this thing is busted. I really like regrowth. I really like the art. I really like how the card works. It's really fun to play with. Um, but yeah, let's move on to a little. Let's move on to the OG Flying Man. Scribe Sprites is a 1/1 for 1 green mana that has flying. It's Flying Man. And this was printed before Flying Man. So technically all Flying Men should be called Scribe Sprites. But I think I understand why they didn't do it. It's more copies of your broken cards. It's the best way I can put it. Yeah, I think so. I think I can't think of a better way to describe it. Um, it's just, or I guess you would say it's a consistency enabler, right? Like it enables you to more consistently do not fair things. Um, yeah, Scribe Sprites, Flying Man, art by Amy Weber. This art is really good. I like this art Amy Weber did. We aren't gonna stick around on Scribe Sprites too long. There isn't. We said it. Scrib. Scrib. Scrib Sprite. Oh, Scrib. Yeah, maybe. Uh, as far as like pronouncing magic words, I generally tend not to worry about it either way, no matter how people say it, because like at the end of the day, most of it's like made up words, right? Eh, Pronouncing things in fantasy kind of doesn't matter, um, at least to me. But you're probably right. But either way, um, yeah, Green Flying Man. That's For some reason, I always confuse this card with Argothian Pixies. I do the same fucking thing. Yeah, I do the same thing, honestly. Probably just because Pixies feel like they should fly, right? And they don't, and the Argothian Pixies don't. Um, but yeah, that's wild. Like I've made that. I've had that confusion before myself, which is interesting. Yeah, maybe it doesn't really matter either way. Scrib, whatever, right? Um, Speaking of made up words, let's talk about Shanodin dryads. Shanodin dryads. I guess I don't know if these words are made up. Um, Dryad obviously isn't. Well, I guess all words are made up, right? Um, this is a 1/1 forest walk, and go ahead, say something about Gaia's leash control. Uh, because if you give them a forest, then this is unblockable, right? Um, this card is fine, right? It's obviously really niche because it doesn't. If they have forests, then this is a 1/1 Shanodin. That's probably it. Shanodin. Shanodin. I don't Shanodin maybe. I don't know. Kinda doesn't matter. But yeah, it's a 1/1 for one, and if they have forest, it's a 1/1 unblockable. Shanodin, Shano play. Yeah. Yeah, there's 100 better. Even at the time, there's 100 better options for a 1/1. The art's pretty awesome though. Anson Maddox did this, and it's pretty sweet. If you think trees are sexy, I guess. Um, the art's funny. Um, I guess I don't have anything else to say about a 1/1 forest walking 1 mana creature. Um, let's talk about Stream of Life because this card's interesting. You could uh You could argue that this is good. You could argue that this is bad, I think. X and a green. Target player gains X life. Illustrated by Mark Poole. Insert wood pun here. Yeah, good, good call. Uh, Stream of life. It gains you X life. This is this can be pretty frustrating depending on what the card pool around it is. In like limited and revised and stuff like that, I'd say this is I don't know that this is something that I would like actively want, but it could do something in the right situations, right? If you're on the back foot, this could give you the time needed to pivot. Um, if you ever want to send a message, there's no better way than channeling a stream of life. And it's completely free too. Like you net zero if you use your Black Lotus on that too, right? You Black Lotus, you make the 3 green, you have all you need. So then it's just a direct transfer of life right out and right back in. And it only costs you 3 cards. That is which could be good. If you balance then you just mind twisted them 3 cards. Got them. Channel until you're yeah. Yep. And hope they don't lightning bolt you in response. Although with the old rules, it wouldn't matter if they lightning bolt you because you could go to past 0, and as long as you made it back up by the end of the phase, you were okay. Um, yeah, Stream of Life is interesting. It's funny. It's like not actually a good card in most situations because it doesn't really do anything. If your strategy is a slower one, it might be okay. But the card's more funny than it is good. Um, you could and damage was always done last rule wise. Yeah, once batches came in and stuff like that, um, for sure. But the life loss would have been done as you generated the mana, right? So, no, I see what you're saying with the lightning bolt in response. Yeah, you're right on that. Yeah, that's correct. I was thinking of the stack when I thought of that, but back in the day, it would have either been batches or nothing. Yeah, you could give your life. You could give your opponent the life. I hadn't considered that. That is a big brain move. Channel down to 1, target you. Um, oh, let's talk about Basilisk. Basilisk. Gosh, words are fucking hard, guys. Thicket Basilisk. This is done by Dan Frazier, and it is very similar to Cockatrice, who was also done by Dan Frazier. Uh, Thicket Basilisk is a 2/4 for 5 mana that does the same thing Cockatrice does, except it doesn't have flying. Uh, it's the same card. It's the same card. Also, I think Stream of Life is one of the very few old cards who's yes, that's probably true. I think that's mostly to do with how simple the text is, though, right? Because they also like you could say the same thing about Brain Geyser and stuff. But yeah, that's true. Um, I don't have anything to say about Thicket that we didn't already say. No flying does make a big difference, though. Yeah, no flying definitely does make a big difference. Can't block Sarah or Shivan, for sure. But yeah, I will say the no flying can be an advantage in very small niche situations where you want to like make your opponent sweat. But yeah, it's just strictly worse, right? Um, all right. Sorry, I was trying to get all the way through this, but I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. Oh, I really got to stop drinking a full pot of coffee before streaming and then drinking a bunch of water so my throat doesn't die. Okay. Ba 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 ba. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, the flying does make a difference for sure. It's definitely worse. I really like the art. It's a cool, cool little guy. Um, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about it. So let's talk about Timberwolves. Timberwolves is a 1/1 for a single green mana that has banding. It's Banala Shiro, except it's in green, so obviously this is a rare card. Um, yeah, it's just green Banala Shiro. Timberwolves being that background is nowhere near being a thicket. Yeah, you are correct. That that is a fair criticism. My face when I get blocked by 5/1 with Boris. Same, dude. Sending my love for banding. Another one for Gaia's Liege Control. Probably, right? Banding's all control decks play Banalish Hero, and if they were more green, they'd obviously pivot to Timber. uh, yeah, being rare is confusing. I guess like they're trying to say that animals in nature do it too, right? But like to a less degree. Humans are known for organizing, but not every forest woodland creature does it, so it's more rare. So it was maybe something like that. I don't know. Um, your obvious gut reaction if you find out this is a rare and Banala Shiro isn't is that this is somehow stronger in green. But it probably isn't. It's probably not stronger in green. Um, Wait, there is an artifact in Alpha that gives creatures banding, right? Gaia's Leech Control can make it. Doesn't Gaia's Leech Control have enough bad cards in it? Do we have to put Helm of fucking Chick-fil-A in there? Chick Walk, Chakwa? We'll get to that when we do the artifacts this afternoon. I don't I don't know if Gaia's Leech has the time to also take another side quest to get to what it's trying to do, guys. Make some use of that. Even the like fucking 1/1 banding decks don't make some use of that. Timberwolves is not really a good card. It's not the worst card in the world. I think this being rare is back to them thinking the multiple copies being okay or banding for one. Uh, Maybe, but the problem is this exact same card exists in white called Banala Shiro, and that's a common. It might be an uncommon. I'm pretty positive it's a common. It has to be purely for the stats. If Timberwolf was a uncommon or common, maybe it would have been a 2 mana 1/2 or even. Well, again, Banala Shiro is a 1/1 for one with the same stats or with banding. It's the exact same card except that it's a summon hero instead of a summon wolf. Which at the time did not matter. So really, the only objectival difference between the two cards, from the perspective of the time when they were designed, is just the color cost. Um, or they could have run out of space on the common sheet and put it on the rare where there were holes. Yeah, It could have been something as simple as that. It's hard to say like why the decision got made. Um, playtesters obviously hated Timberwolves for sure. What's not to hate? It is a cool card. Yeah, I think you guys might have cracked the case on Timberwolves. The art was done by Melissa A. Benson, and it's pretty solid, right? I like the art. It's really funny. Spooky fucking wolves. Um, I don't know that there was ever a time when this card was super playable. It's also like it's worse than the flying 1/1. It's arguably better than the forest walk 1/1. Banding was just so poorly worded and it doesn't deserve the hate. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it deserves the hate either. I think it does deserve some of the mocking. Um, I still don't get how banding works though. Yeah, see it's it's poorly worded, but it's also just complicated because how banding works is that band you can only activate a band while you're attacking. The rules for banding are different when you're defending and attacking. So when you're attacking, you can activate a band, and then any creature with banding plus one without can band together and attack as a single unit. And then you determine the combat damage if anything or everything blocks that. But while you're on blocking, since part of the act of blocking is blocking multiple attackers, you don't actually do a band. But if a creature with banding is in the group that is blocking whatever card, then you assign the damage. So it effectively ends up so it kind of works the same way on attack and defense, but because the rules for attacking and defense are different and how they interact is different, that then the rules themselves are different. So it's confusing. It's very confusing and corner cases are hard to understand. Like even professional players don't really like often get tripped up on banding. I like it from a flavor standpoint. Like it's really cool. Um yeah, for sure. Is vastly more powerful on blockers though. Yeah, it is vastly more powerful on blockers. When it attacks, pick another creature. If the banding creature or chosen creature is blocked, the blocker chooses both or blocks both creatures. If combat damage could be done to a bander, you distribute it. Yeah, that is a pretty good way to simplify it. It's still pretty complicated. I like it. I think banding's pretty fun, and it definitely can be strong. Um, but I can understand why people don't like. I can understand why they got away from it. It is a little bit complicated. Um, but yeah, the wolves are pretty cool. Um, I'd rather figure out how Chains of Mephistopheles works without that chart. Oh, come on, man! Chains is easy. That card make is if you would draw a card that isn't the first card you would draw per turn, uh, discard a card first. If you can't, instead of drawing, it's a replacement effect. Instead of drawing, put the top card of your library into your graveyard. Simple stuff. It doesn't get complicated until there's two Chains of Mephistopheles and somebody casts an Ancestral Recall. That's when you're in for a party. They overcosted it 99% of the time. Yeah, yeah, banding like ban yeah, they overcosted it 99% of the time. That's part of why banding does kind of suck is just it's not that the banding sucks, it's that the creatures suck, but it's pretty hard to deal with banding to begin with. Um it's also not really set up in a way for it to become super powerful just because of the fact that it's overcosted on a lot of stuff. Anyways, this is Titania's song. This was originally from Bans is funny templating, implying flying should be read as flies. Bans is really funny templating. I prefer banding. I trip up on that every time because I go to say banding and then I read bands and I'm like, well, maybe I should say it the way that it's written, and it just it messes with me. I was halfway through the sentence, wasn't I? Titania's song. It's an enchantment, costs 3 and a green. All non-creature artifacts in play lose all of their usual abilities and become artifact creatures with toughness and power, both equal to their casting costs. If Titania's song leaves play, artifacts return to normal just before the untap phase of the next turn. So it's 4 mana to board wipe all the Moxen. This was originally from Antiquities, makes sense because it's talking about artifacts. And it was illustrated by Kirstine Kaman, which I don't think illustrates a whole lot. Yeah, play Titania's song, turn all your Moxens and your Sol Ring into creatures. It's great. It's a solid strategy. You could even cast this with your Moxen to get this out on turn 1. I mean, to be fair, if you can slam this turn 1, nice fox in there. The fox is really cute. I didn't notice the fox until like when I did a set review of this was the first time I saw the fox creeping up in her fucking bard robes, which is very cool. It's got that great classic Magic Guard feel, at least. Yeah, I agree. I do not hate the art. I think the art is cool. Yeah, yeah. I also just noticed the little fox. It is very cute. It's easy. It's something easy to miss, right? Because like, I haven't been looking at these cards for 30 years, but I've been looking at them for 5, 6, and I didn't notice it till like half a year ago or whenever I did the Antiquities video. Um, They are pretty cool. I will say it is pretty funny. In high power, if you could like Black Lotus, Mox Emerald, or Black Lotus land, put this out, you could shut off all of your opponent's Moxens until they could disenchant this, which would be really fucking funny if you were going first. The card is not really good though. It's too niche for it to be like super effective. You can like if you are playing like a bunch of icy manipulators, I guess, you could play it into your so I guess maybe this is good with like Mishra's Workshop. Yeah, you play this card and the opponent slams you back with an animated Icy Manipulator, Winter Orb, and the Hive. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Um, but if you have the Icy Manipulator and the Winter Orb and stuff, this could be potentially pretty funny. Ba 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 ba. And it also does shut down Moxen, which is interesting. But like, I don't think the card is necessarily good. A card like this needs a very specific environment to even do anything. But you might be able to do like a Mishra's Workshop. I'm gonna slam big artifacts, and pull this back in with Replenish among other stuff. Replenish. That one's not sticking in my head. What does Replenish do? Um, But yeah, you could do this with like Mishra's Workshop, which just lets you tap. No, yeah, Workshop, not Factory. Tap for 3 that you can use on artifacts. Cast big artifacts, play Titania's Song, beat them up with big artifacts. The idea of my opponent being able to swords my Icy Manipulator or Winter Orb gives me nightmares. That is a problem you have to worry about for sure. Um, Return all enchantments to play from graveyard. Oh yeah, 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 for sure. Thanks, guys. Um, yeah, yeah, I agree. You could do that for sure. Um, yeah, Titania Song I'd say is interesting, right? You could definitely talk around and build an environment where this does stuff, but it's definitely not good in like if you're just going out to a random old school night, don't bring this fucking card with you. Um, if you build around it, it's pretty funny, but it still has weaknesses and there are stronger build arounds. But it's a cool card. It is an interesting card. But that card is all the way back in Urza's block. Yeah. Yeah, and this is probably isn't good by the time you get to Urza's block. But maybe. Um, Urza's block has some powerful stuff. Some, like half of the powerful stuff in the game is from Urza's block. Um, yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say about Titania's song. I don't remember if there are any more green cards. We're not to the end yet, are we? Oh, no, no, good. Oh, hell yeah, we still have quite a few. Excellent. Tranquility is kind of interesting. Oops. Is Titania's song playable in EDH? I mean, anything is playable in EDH, right? Like, it depends what you're asking. If you're asking, can I go to a CEDH tournament with it? No, probably fucking not. Can I go to a bracket 4 with it? You might be able to. Well, you can go to a bracket 4 with anything. I don't know that you would win. Um, no, they didn't fix the wording on Tranquility in Revised. There's a few cards they didn't fix the wording of for in Revised. Which is pretty interesting. But yeah, you could play it in bracket 1 and bracket 2. It might be really fucking good. And you can play anything in EDH. It kind of just depends on like what the environment you're playing it in is. But I would say if you wanted to play around with it, it would probably. It's not legal. It's too ass. Yeah, it does have that going for it in Commander. It nobody expects it. That's the funniest part about certain jank. And yeah, it definitely could pull its weight depending on your pod for sure. Um, what was it? Was there anything? Oh yeah, I was gonna say probably the best place to play it though would be to like build a cube around artifacts where it was good. Then you can for sure like guarantee that it's gonna do stuff. Um, Probably doesn't do anything in a random commander pod, right? Like if you were to like distill all commander players ever into the most perfect mean average thing, I don't think it does good there. But again, it depends entirely on your pod, as the other commentators have said. Tranquility is pretty interesting. It really goes to show how well thought out Alpha was that you could play this many decks in a set with what 300 cards in it, anti and the power 9 notwithstanding. Yeah, revised is 306. ABU was 305. Well, Alpha was not, but um, yeah, Alpha was, and to this a similar degree revised as well, was insanely well designed, like way better than a lot of the sets that came after it. But Alpha was in development for years, and it was kind of tested in a limited environment, right? Because he had this cards for the set, and he would put them in a fucking bag, and he would hand out the bags, and people would take random cards, and so they would basically play limited. So the set actually does function pretty well from a limited environment standpoint, depending on what you think is a healthy limited, right? It's obviously way slower and not as contained or well designed as drafts kind of are now. But yeah, yeah, I'm a big withstander that um yeah, I'm a big believer in ABU and Revised being really great sets that are really well designed. Um, I can't think of many good enchantments that you want to master outside of Bad Moon, Crusade, and Stasis. No, there isn't too many of them. It depends, right? Like if you're playing against if you're playing against a Mana Flare, you might want to um do it against that. Raging River, which is out of revised, so I guess that doesn't count, but that might be something you want to remove. And if they're playing that, they might also be playing stuff like Smoke and so yeah. Yeah, enchantments are probably pretty well on average most enchantments are pretty weak, but you can also like blow up a fast bond and instill energies, right? And animate artifact. There's some stuff. Um But yeah. Oh, oops, missed something here. The most useful thing the anti cards do now is playing a 91 card deck in very casual EDHD. Yeah, they do that in no band EDH too, where you just get to play a 91 deck because you put all the anti cards in it, which I think is kind of funny. Um, I think specifically Contract from Below, the rest of the anti cards are for the most part pretty bad. A couple of them are okay-ish. Uh, Jeweled Bird is pretty kind of okay too. But I like those in anti cubes. I think those two cards specifically are pretty fun if you do a cube and do anti within the cube while people are playing. Uh, but yeah, outside of that, anti is one. It's just not a great idea for your collectible card game, um, and people don't like playing with it. But back to Tranquility. Yeah. As far as wraths go, it's really nice that it's 3 mana. It's 3 mana for an enchantment wrath, the specific anti format, the 5 color magic format. Interesting. I don't know much about that. Um, Tranquility, yeah, it's efficient for the cost, and wipes are useful when they are useful. Tranquility does not often find itself in a place of being useful. It's probably pretty alright to load up into your commander deck. Um, but it doesn't end up doing much. Ring of Maroofing an anti card back into. It's a good use of Ring of Maroof. Um, EDH killed it, I think, because it's too hard to shuffle 250 card decks. Oh, um was that how the format worked? You had 50 cards of each color or something like that, and had 250 card decks. That's interesting. Yeah, those would be a pain in the ass to shuffle. Tranquility is interesting. It's like not a bad card, right? Like the rate for what it does is really good. It just turns out to like not be that useful a lot of the time. Uh, the art was done by Douglas Schuler, and Tranquility's art is pretty fucking bangers. Yeah, 25 cards minimum of each color in 250 card decks. Those were probably super consistent. Um, that's kind of interesting. That's a cool way to like bring back the spirit of random card decks. But yeah, the 250 card decks would be kind of hard to. I wonder if you could just shrink it, do the same thing but shrink it down to 100 and say like 10, a minimum of 10 for every color. Um, that would be kind of interesting because then at least the decks would be more shuffleable. They would be less random though, but not by a lot, I wouldn't think. Um, I guess I don't really have anything else to say on Tranquility. Like, I don't think this is a bad card. Schuler often warped perspective in odd ways to deal with the framing, and I haven't seen one that didn't benefit. Yeah, yeah, he does do that. Um, yeah, it is kind of cool. 5 color 120. Yeah, that would be a decent compromise too, right? But yeah, no, the art is fantastic. I really like this. Uh, Schuler does do some like landscape pieces. Most of what he does isn't. I do think his landscape pieces are fantastic. Um, but yeah, it's it's like a card that's strong but not often useful, I guess, is how I would say it. Tsunami's pretty cool. A lot of people like Tsunami. 3 in a red or 3 in a green, not 3 in a red. 3 in a green. For sorcery, all islands in play are destroyed. This is another one that was done by Richard Thomas. And again, I like this one too. Um, fuck you, blue mage. Um, yeah, blows up all islands. Why is Tsunami a green card? Because it's a blue card, hate card, because it hates on blue, right? Because there's the color wheel, right? So when you look at the back of a Magic card, it's white, blue, black, red, green. And so the colors that are not directly next to you are what are called enemy colors. So blue and green are why is it city press that? Um no, that ain't an island. That's a good question. But anyways, it's an enemy color of blue, right? So that's why it's a green card. The island question is underwater. Um Yeah, I don't know. Like it's really good if you're playing against mono blue and they aren't holding up a counter spell for some reason. Um, this is probably the least hated uh land destruction spell in Commander. Generally, people don't like it when you blow up their lands, but also in Commander, a lot of people hate fucking blue. So that you might be able to slip this one through the cracks of society and get a thumbs up from your play group. Uh, But yeah, it's just it's 4 mana to blow up all the islands. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's funny. Force spike. Yeah. Get wrecked, nerd. Force spike, memory lapse, mana drain. Now it's my mana. Yeah, I got nothing else to say on Tsunami, I don't think. It's a decent enough card. It's a decent enough card. Verduran Enchantress. Wind is green coated sometimes. I think the tsunami and the wind more than the wave here. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is too, depending on green is also like considered nature, right? And a tsunami is part of nature. So like there's there's definitely ways to like look at it. Um yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine that it's green, and I think it makes sense. Verduran Enchantress is pretty interesting. It's 1 and 2 green mana, and it's a 0/2. And while Enchantress is in play, you may immediately draw a card from your library each time you cast an enchantment. Hey, so that's pretty good. Green being more wind coated makes sense. I guess they could have chose a different natural disaster. Yeah, that might have made fun. I do think it makes sense specifically because it's hating on blue, right? Because it's saying that the wind and stuff is ripping apart and fucking up them islands. So tsunami makes flavorful sense there, in my opinion, just for what the card is trying to do. Um, but yeah, back to the Enchantress. 0/2 for 3 that draws you a card whenever you cast an enchantment. This is pretty fucking good, especially since there's some pretty decent green enchantments. You do want to be mostly in green. Uh, nope, it's still errata to cast. It is busted on cast. Still a good card today. Probably less impactful back in the day with fewer playable enchantments. Best wall ever. Yeah, but there was like as far as if you're gonna be mostly green, the enchantments that you can look at too are what like fast bond, instill energy, wild growth. That's 3 really solid early turn enchantments that you would be willing to play. Fast Bond you'd have to be careful with because you don't want to play two of them because then you'll take 2 damage per land. Um, but it might still be worth it just to pay a green mana to draw a card. Um, I mean, this can block a 1/1 as long as they don't have any mana open. Uh, it's pretty busted. It's like less busted than other busted stuff in the area. Um, Green's just kind of overall kind of bad, right? Like it does have channel. Fastbond isn't semi-power is a pretty powerful card that doesn't really do as well as the other powerful cards. Um, but it's pretty good. No, not only does this work in Gaia's control, but this is necessary, right? Like, what else are you doing? Yeah, it's great. Wild Song, Titanium Song, and lands you'll be casting. Yeah, maybe you'll get the time to cast it because your opponent will just be so aghast and confused by what you're trying to do. Um, Card drawing green is amazing. Yeah, it's pretty good. Um, it's one of the better card draw cards in the set, honestly. Obviously not as good as like Brain Geyser or Wheel of Fortune, but and it does request that you build around it in a specific way. It's still really fucking good though. I really like the art on this. I think this is probably my favorite Kev Brockschmidt art. But I just think it's fantastic. I didn't miss anything, did I? No, not really. Yeah, it's a great card. It's not a busted card, but it's pretty fucking good. And I would say there's enough green white land tax. Yeah, it'd be pretty solid with land tax for sure. Good luck with your petition on City of Brass. Is this the only green draw spell in Revised? I think it's the only green draw spell for other than Sylvan's Library for like a long time, at least until cantrips. Um, but yeah, it is the unless they didn't print. No, we're already past it. No, they didn't print Sylvan. Yeah, without Sylvan, I think this and Sylvan are the two major ones that exist at this point in the game's history. I don't think there's any others. Um, yeah, yeah, I can't think of any. Yeah, overall, pretty good card. Um, I, I guess that's all I got for Verduran Enchantress. Let's talk about Wall of Brambles. Wall of Brambles is a 2/3 that costs 2 and a green, and you can pay 1 green mana to regenerate it. So this is very similar to Wall of Bone. Wall of Bone was a 1/4. This is a 2/3, so it can kill a few more things that attack into it. Um, but otherwise, it's just as fucking annoying to deal with, right? Because like you're not gonna use a Swords to Plowshare on a wall. So like, what do you like? This one's pretty fucking annoying. Um, but it's also like not powerful, right? Obviously, it's just a wall. Natural selection ponders. Yeah, if you're gonna include natural selection, uh, without the draw, that's um, that is something. That being said, natural selection in revised? Did we talk about it today? I thought they cut that after unlimited. Not banned considering it's actually deterrence. It is deterrence. It's honestly walls with actual offensive stats is such a cool design choice. It is a cool design choice, and I like how they did it. Wall of brambles makes sense, right? Like it's a thorn wall. Don't run it. Don't run into that. Um, I'd rather just spend 3 mana elsewhere. I don't disagree at all. I don't know that I have ever cast a wall of brambles. But having them against you in Chandelar is pretty fucking annoying. Um, yeah, yeah. It's not a powerful card, but it's definitely not nothing, especially in like a limited or lower power environment. And in those situations, it's kind of just fucking annoying. Um, Walls with menace. That'd be interesting. Um, I don't really have anything else to say about Wall of Brambles, I guess. It was illustrated by Anson Maddox, and it's pretty good. No natural selection wasn't in revised, but it was technically some card advantage in green. I mean, it's closer to card selection, right? But yeah, I don't disagree. I use it. I'm a pretty big stand for natural selection, honestly. Uh, I run it in my Fungasaur and Pestilence is totally good enough to play with cards like Time Twister deck. Uh, where it's really not, but um, if you're trying to do any sort of like niche combo, natural selection is really good in my opinion, or at least I use it like it's really good. Um, Walls with Menace seem like a great card. Yeah, probably. Um, yeah, we don't really have anything else to talk about with Walls of Bramble. It's an interesting design for a wall for a lot of reasons. The regeneration is a cool idea. The fact that it has the power toughness thing. I did say that they did like not do things that were not walls early on, and I guess I was wrong because they Wall of Brambles has been here, so they always did stuff like this. Um, that's all I really have to say on it, though. It's an interesting card. I do both. I do. I prefer drafting old school stats most of the time because just because it's a more balanced environment that way, right? But also like I will build old school constructed decks just to mess around with different strategies. Um, I'm really trying to figure out how to make a Tog work really well and a Fungasaur deck that I really like. Anytime that like basically anytime that I'm like looking through the cards or something and I get an idea to like try to make a deck that would be really interesting and like good, I will try to do that. Usually it doesn't work out, um but I do both. Getting together a draft is a lot harder though. Oh yeah, we were done with Wall of Brambles. We're not done with walls though. This is Wall of Ice. Um Oh, thanks, dude. Wall of Ice. This is a 0/7 for 2 and a green. It does not ever generate, and this was illustrated by Richard Thomas. Copy paste Wall of Stone commentary here. Yeah, that's it exactly. Uh, there are some differences. It is easier to cast. You can play this in your 5-colored deck. Way easier than you can play Wall of Stone. But yeah, it just fucking halts the game down. This kind of design. Yeah, me too. I don't like walls. They're interesting, right? And I think there is some design space you can massage out of them, but like the only place they ever get played is like in limited or kids that are just starting up with piles of cards and they're just awful to deal with in those situations, right? Like they slide from the scale from being awful to an awful play experience and just difficult to deal with to being like a waste of a card. which is kind of bad, right? It blocks crawl worm, but not force of nature. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's true. Big, big true. Force of nature stonks back up, I guess, right? Yeah. Well, are you guys sick of talking about walls? Let's move on to something different. Let's talk about Wall of Wood. So, Wall of Wood. This is a 1 mana creature. It's a 0/3. This is Wall of Wood. This is the best use of 1 mana ever. This was illustrated by Mark Teeden. Even overcosted, even at 0. It actually is. What is the spike shield or whatever thing? It's like a 0/7 for 0. The flavor text is pretty fucking funny. Yeah, this is kind of overcosted. It's pretty bad. Mark Teaton did the art. I do like the art. I do think it's funny. Um, the concept of walls is interesting. I don't hate the idea. I do not think it was well implemented, and I also don't think they needed to be so fucking excited about walls in alpha and limited and or alpha beta unlimited and then revised. I was thinking of Phyrexian Walker. Uh, is that the one with the counters? Um, because there's another old school one that's like a 0/7 or something. That's a zero cost creature. I think Shield is in the name, but I could be wrong. Shield Sphere is what I was talking about. I think Shield Sphere is what I was talking about. Um, yeah, Wall of Wood sucks. It's pretty funny, but there's so many fucking walls in Alpha. The concept is cool, but come on, man. I just want to fucking end this game. Wanderlust. 0/3 for 0. Vision's uncommon. Shield Sphere was in Lions' and did Walker's a 0/3. Okay, yeah. Either way, we can agree that Wall of Wood is overcosted. Wanderlust, 2 and a green. It does 1 damage to target creature's controller during his or her upkeep. Yeah, so you spend 3 mana to enchant a creature, and then it pings them for 1 damage each turn. Yeah, Wanderlust does blow. The idea is not terrible. 3 mana is a lot for this, and it just kind of sucks. Enchant is on Force of Nature. I take 8. You take what seems fair. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, guys, you've cracked it. You've cracked the deck list. Yeah. Now you can Wanderlust their fucking forest. It should cost 1. If this costed 1, it'd be pretty okay. I still don't know that it would be necessarily worth the card. Um Slot for what it does. But it's I don't know. It can put in some amount of value, right? Especially like if you're playing against fucking dude with Wall of Stone and Wall of Ice and nothing else in his deck, Wanderlust might be like the only way you can fucking win that game. Um, so there are like situations where stuff like this is kind of interesting, but it is overcosted for the effect, and probably not worth a card in most situations. Good against Walter Tribal, yeah, yeah. Um, illustrated by Cornelius Brundy. or Broody. The art's really good, and the flavor of the card is good, right? Like, I guess it's at least somewhat interesting. The card itself is not interesting though. There's not like really anything interesting that you can do with it. Let's talk about War Mammoth. War Mammoth. War Mammoth is a 3/3. It costs 3 and a green. It's got trample. Um, Personally, I think this card is pretty okay. Like it's no like Black Lotus, Time Twister, anything like that. But yeah, 3/3 with trample for 4 mana at the time is it's pretty okay. It's War Mammoth. What a banger! Yeah, what a banger is right, right. Classic card, classic flavor text. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And you can even regenerate this with Elephant Graveyard. That's a pretty expensive card though. But you could do you could do Mammoth slash Elephant Tribal. Green white Elephant Tribal. Regenerating your War Mammoth. What a strategy. Uh I like this card. It's pretty cool. It's it's just fair magic. I don't know what else to say. Natural good creature for the day. It gets accelerated out and tramples with buff possibilities. Yeah, yeah, that's a solid thing to be doing with it for sure. Um, yeah, it looks pretty innocuous by today's standards, but it's definitely not bad for the time. The trample's interesting too. Um, it was illustrated by Jeff A. Menges. I really like it. The way I run a Tog in Revised 40. Revised 40 is a little bit different than what I'm mostly trying for 60 card, but is Mana Vault, Soul Ring for easy ramp into sacrifices for along with Black Vice, Anka Mishra, and Fireball just to capitalize off the big mana you make. That's pretty similar to what I the strategy that I usually try to use. You're gonna play this card because it's a green creature with trample. Yeah, exactly. And also it's like the earliest to get down because it's not the hugest ask in the world to get this down on turn one, right? Because you can even help if you have a Mox Jet and a Dark Ritual. Obviously, that's 2 cards and you're wasting the Dark Ritual, right? But you can do that. You can people make the joke Black Lotus into War Mammoth, but that's pretty good unless they Swords to Plowshare it. Um, but yeah, today it would cost 2 and have like 14 lines of text. Ain't that the truth? Um, yeah, I like the way you run a Tog in Revised 40. Revised 40 is easier because well, maybe not easier because there are quite a few restrictions as well. But in 60 card it's hard to find the consistency to make it work the way I want. Um the latest Atog deck that I messed around with is Mind Twist Balance. So it's Mardu and it makes use of balancing to wipe everything, and then it makes use of like Moxen and Black Lotus and Soul Ring and Mana Vault and all that jazz. Uh, After Revised, you're going to cover 4th edition, probably eventually. I don't know when I'm going to next do another stream like this. It is kind of a lot of work, and I'm not probably not going to do a stream like this right away. Might be a few weeks, maybe a couple months. I don't know, but yeah, I'll probably do 4th eventually. I might. I don't know. Let's just say I haven't given enough thought to confidently say what I'm going to be doing next. But I will be doing more of these because people seem to enjoy them, and I'm definitely enjoying them. I might also like go back and do sets that I've already done. Um, yeah. Yeah. We'll do fourth edition eventually, for sure. War Mammoth. We've talked about that enough, right? Did I mention the artist? GFA Menges. I really like the art. It's a classic card, right? War Mammoth is such an iconic card. Uh, Web is kind of interesting. Hey, welcome. Web. Target creature gains +0/+2 and can now block flying creatures, though it does not gain flying ability. So if you combine this with a grizzly bear, no need to recover things you've already done. Maybe a stream after the original one is posted. I mean, doing revised is kind of recovering things I've already done, right? No way I came here at the end of the stream. I mean, yes and no, dude. We are like after we finish green cards, I am gonna like shut stream down and take a little bit of a break, but we are going to do the artifacts and the land cards today. I mean, not that there's really anything to say about the lands, but we'll like look at them and say, ooh, so we still have but we will finish revise today. Yeah, revised is still set. It's still, yeah, but it's just reprints, right? So it's like the same cards as like if I do a stream where we go over antiquities, it's not really that different than this compared to me talking about ABU. Um, uh, Revised is cool. Part of it is to discuss the time. Yeah, okay, that's fair, right? Swamp so OP. Um, Maybe a stream after the original one is posted. Well, I would do the streams after like because I have set reviews up of everything up to Fallen Empires except for the reprint sets, right? So nothing white border, just the black border stuff. Um, so what am I trying to say here? Um, I don't know. I think it's different enough to go over the sets that I've already talked about with, having chat interaction and stuff like that. And obviously, I've played a lot of Magic since some of those. Well, revised is a solid. Still gets stomp. I see it. Funny. Um, Revised is a really well designed set. Mirage is a pretty well designed set too. A lot of the sets before that are kind of not. If you're talking about from like a limited um, design space, right? Like it's really hard to shuffle up Arabian Nights cards and have usable decks. There's some really powerful cards in there, but a lot of them are not, and they don't really synergize all that well together because it was made with the design first and the mechanics came second. Antiquities can play okay, kind of, but a lot of the early sets are not like designed well to play by themselves. Um, no need to. We have giant spider at home. Yeah, 100%. Revised is still, yeah. Revised is a set. Revised is still cool. Um, Ice Age is the first limited decent set. Yeah, well, that probably has something to do with the fact that like originally Ice Age was designed as a standalone thing, right? Because it was going to have its own backs. The original idea was Magic the Gathering would be a set, and then the next thing that come out would be Magic Ice Age, which would have different backs and be a different card pool that plays together. Originally, Richard Garfield didn't want all the cards to be playable because he felt like it would be impossible to like think about every possible interaction and really busted powerful things would pop up, which he was right about. But they ended up solving that with like standard and ban lists instead. Um, And Mirage is simply a whole different level. It's like a whole new world. Yeah, Mirage was originally Menagerie, and that they started designing Mirage. Mirage was another one that was going to be okay, and then after we're done with Magic Ice Age, then we'll do Magic Menagerie or whatever. But they started designing for that in '92, and so they still were. That was the first set that they say was designed with limited in mind, which is kind of true. Um, but yeah, and that's how we ended up with City in a Bottle. Yeah, that is how we ended up with City in a Bottle. City in the Bottle was made to specifically because he wanted people to have the chance to opt out of new cards, right? Like in a new environment. Uh, I like how he always had a tendency to just swing for the fucking fences. He's like, yeah, this is gonna be a stacks piece that just blows up everything that's on the field, says no to everything else, and we'll have it cost 2 mana. uh, City in a Bottle is honestly kind of cracked if the environment supports it, right? Like if there's a bunch of Arabian Night cards floating around, it's fucking cracked. Uh, Web. Is there anything to say about Web? It's someone in the comments said it. We have giant spider at home. Exactly. You can attach this to a grizzly bear, and for 2 cards and 3 mana, have a giant spider made up of a bear. Uh, it's okay. It's nice because you could play this with like your Verduran Enchantress to draw a card. So like that's kind of cool. Did Arabian Nights have basic lands? And if so, did City in a Bottle affect those? It had a single basic mountain. So Arabian Nights, when they designed it, it was originally going to like come with lands and stuff. And they were like, oh, we should have different card backs on it, right? So that those cards are separated. Um, Webon does sound kind of decent. It is kind of decent. It's also decent to like cast this on your Verdure Enchantress, right? To make it a 0/4. Like at least then it like survives a lightning bolt. You're kind of right, Jensen. You're all wrong in a little bit. Not really. So yeah, it did have a mountain and exact. So what happened with Arabian Nights is the set was incredibly rushed, and they went to get the scans decolorized. So basically, they would make the images on the computer of all of the. Um, there was a mountain in there, Saint, um, whatever your name is. Um, but yeah, so the sheets were made with basic lands, and then they collated the sheets to have them the separate color separated sheets made so that they could send those to Gardamundi to have them printed. But those sheets failed, and Dave Howell was the guy who was in charge of all this. And while those were failing, he was at a party because they were celebrating something, and all of the Wizards of the Coast people at the party were like, "Yeah, getting basics in your packs kind of sucks. Let's say no basics." So he's like, "Oh, okay, so we'll replace the basics." Um, and then he found out that all of the color separation sheets except for two failed. The sheets that didn't fail was like fucking uncommon sheet B, I think. Just meant in general. Yeah, you're right. Like in general, they didn't put lands in expansion sets. Um, yeah, whatever sheet the sheet that had the mountain on is the one that fails. I think it was I think it was one of the common sheets. Um, and then the card back sheet was the other sheet that ironically didn't fail. Um, but the sheet with the mountain, you know how Arabian Nights has light cards and dark cards of some of the commons. So the mana symbol is like light on some of it and darker on the other ones. When they redid the color separation process, something got screwed up on that, and that's where those dark symbols come from because the signal told it to like use more black ink than it was supposed to, or something to that effect. I don't understand all the mechanics of how that happened, but the light mana colored cost cards came on the same sheet as the mountain. And then the card that replaced it was It was, I think it was Desert Troopers. It was a red creature. All of the land. It wasn't a desert that swapped the cards. All of the lands on the sheet were swapped with one of the creatures, and I think for the red one it was desert, the red desert uh creature, whose name I can't remember for the top of my life because I wasn't expecting to talk about this. I did a video on the whole thing like a long time ago. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing that exists on the internet. Um, is there anything I missed now? Back to the original question of did City in a Bottle affect us? No, how City of um, it worked kind of for a while, but the pretty much right away the when they did rulings text, they say if a card was originally in City in a Bottle. Desert Nomads. Yes, thank you. Desert Nomads. Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty sure the if you go on Google and type in Arabian Nightmare, David Howell, you will probably find the it's on it's some page that's still hosted on the Wayback Machine. And he does a write up explaining the entire situation in detail. I'm missing a lot of things, but um but yeah, some of the details are wrong, but that's the general idea of what happened according to the guy who was like behind it. Um I think it was Desert Nomads. I could be wrong on that. It was one of the red creatures that appeared on all the sheets. But yeah, only two of the original sheets were saved, and one of them was the back that they ended up not using, which is kind of funny. But that's why we have the mountain, and that's why we have light cards, and the dark cards are on the rest. Uh, did we talk about web? Did I skip right past this? It's pretty decent in certain situations. Um, I think the best use of it is putting it in your Vis Viduran Enchantress deck and using it to dodge Lightning Bolt and draw a card. Beyond that, it's probably not good enough. It was illustrated by Rob Alexander, and his art is great. It's just interesting. Yeah, yeah. Magic is crazy interesting. Early Magic is especially interesting because like they had an idea, and then it became one of the most like insanely desired games in the world, right? Like it was just lightning in a fucking bottle, and they were just running around doing their best not to collapse the market and to take advantage of it as best they could. Early Magic history is really interesting because nobody knew what the fuck they were doing. Um, Wild Growth. Wild Growth is the last green card we'll be talking about today. It's a fucking banger. This is a really good card. Still playable today in certain areas of the game. It's an enchant land, and it costs a single green mana, and whenever the usual mana is drawn from target land, Wild Growth provides an extra green mana. So you put this on a land, and then you tap that land, and you make 2 mana. One of them are green. And we're still talking. Yeah, yep, indeed. They were the pioneer. Yeah, exactly. It was the first card game. Like, I don't mean to mock them for them not knowing what they were doing, or to lord over my advanced knowledge of 30 years of the game design over the people that didn't have that. Um, Very good card still. Technically a Llanowar Elves with haste. Yeah, yeah. Technically a Llanowar Elves with haste. Hell yeah. I like the revised copy of it. It is this is a beloved card. I have nothing negative to say about Wild Growth. It's super fucking flavorful for Green's whole fucking slice of the pie. It's powerful. It's not like obscenely powerful. It's it's good. It's a good card, right? The art's really cool too. Mark Poole did this. I've already gushed about how much I like Mark's work. Imagine telling, yeah. Imagine telling an arena player the closest they had to experience was like playing fucking poker or hearts. Is great, looks great, is okay, and combos and multiples with Ley Druid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some crazy stuff you can do with it, even in the revised card pool. it's an interesting and solid card. Half a booster, bro. Yup, yeah. Um, yeah, yeah, it's a good card. It's a fantastic card. Um, a starter and a couple boosters. Couple boosters if you're lucky, right? The starter deck, that's all you need. Yeah, good luck having enough lands for what you want to play. Better luck having the lands you actually need, right? Because you're gonna, all right, my opening hand is a fucking island and a forest, and I got a gray ogre. The fuck do I do with this? Um, yeah, crazy how different the game was back before anyone knew anything. But it's also crazy how like not that hard. Half of boosters commons were lands and so forth. Yeah, and I think they stopped with revised. Was Island still on the rare sheet in revised? You could get there were lands in all on the common sheet, the uncommon sheet, and the rare sheet. There was two islands on the rare sheet, if I remember right, at least in ABU. Yeah, the alpha beta starters only had two rares. Forces when they put the lands on a its own sheet. Interesting. Um, they did remove the rare lands in revised. That's probably for the best. Imagine, imagine your friend pulling a Black Lotus and you get an island. Crazy. All right. Well, I am gonna shut down for a little bit here pretty soon. We'll let the conversation piddle down for a little bit. I'm gonna start stream back up in probably around an hour after I've had a little something to eat and drink some more water, move around a bit. But we are starting this next section, this exciting section with Ed Ladin's Lamb. And kept another flavor. Yeah, you mean the dual lands? I mean, the dual lands do kind of belong in the rare slot, realistically. Be nice if there was more of them running around and they were in the uncommon slot, but they are really strong. Um, and it's probably a good idea that they're pretty rare. Glad you guys enjoyed. Like I said, we'll be back if you're interested in within an hour, probably, maybe a few minutes over. I don't know, but I really appreciate everyone stopping by. It's always nice to hear. It's surprisingly hard to Google up a good picture of an uncut revised rare sheet. Look at Magic Librarities, I believe is the website. If it exists, they're gonna have a copy of it. Um, Otherwise, you can look for the Coalition Project. I don't know if they don't they might have a picture of the uncut sheet, but they at least have a pretty good they have they show what the sheets were on the Coalition Project. Those are probably the two sources that are most likely to have what you're looking for. But I will catch you guys in an hour. Thank you so much for sticking around and chatting. It's always a good time. Yeah, and I will catch you in a bit. Spiking.